Herp House Rock, we have Matt Bowers here. He's from Peach State Python. So you guys are going to have to stay tuned for this one. We might have a couple little surprise guests later, so we'll check it out. Stay tuned.
All right. Outside of knowing that Matt's a great guy, never skips leg day, and lays pipe like no one else I know, I don't know a whole lot about you, buddy. So why don't, just for me, my sake, I want a little background.
I don't know if there's much more to say besides laying some pipe and never missing leg day. That might be it. We can just sign off and wrap up this episode.
Did we just
indulge? Yeah, I think we climaxed real early. But yeah, just for your sake. So, what do you want to know? Where do you want me to start? Where do you want me to go with this?
Reptile.
Well, we could be nerdy. We could start out to when you were like 3 years old, catching snakes in the backyard, or you can just let us know what got you in the hobby.
All right, so that's generally where it starts. I didn't know how far back we wanted to go. So here's the story. I was growing up, especially nerdy. I was having dinosaur parties, birthday parties, and I was just always the dinosaur guy. I lived in Alaska. This is a crucial part to my story, from 5 years old to 9 years old. And so I was into the dinosaurs, but then as you start maturing, getting into your, elementary years out of kindergarten, right? You start growing up, you got to look for other things besides the dinosaurs. And that's where kind of got into the reptiles, always been an animal fan, but there are no reptiles in Alaska. And so I was always like researching and reading about them, watching movies on them and stuff. And when I was 9, we moved to Georgia, and we moved into this apartment complex, and it was on a golf course, this creek running behind it, and just out there exploring it. And I saw a frog jump in the water, and I was like, that's here. And then I just flipped over a rock, and there's a salamander. And then so basically I went from just reading about reptiles and then being like super exotic, I just lived in Alaska, to now I can just go out and start catching them. And so that just became like a huge deal for me. I spent a ton of time doing that. And luckily, my parents were like, they would let me keep a couple. So I'd be like, hey, got another one. And they'd be like, all right, well, let's go get you a cage. And so I was always able to keep a few snakes, turtles, whatever. And then, I got to the point where I was bringing a lot home, and Mom would be like, all right, well, which one you got to let go? You can't keep them all. So they kind of like, I don't know, supported it in a sense, but kept me limited. But yeah, so anyways, that's just how it started. And then, in school, I was getting every book they had at the library. We're older guys. You have the library card, and you write who checked it out, and it'd be like Matt Bowers, Matt Bowers, Matt Bowers, Matt Bowers, just recheck it out. So anyway, memorized those books, and they called me Iguana Man in like 4th grade. That's what the teacher called me. So it just kind of went there. And for some reason, I've never grown out of it, and here I am.
Good enough. I mean, that's
right.
That's a great background, buddy. I like that.
Yeah,
that was heartwarming. I enjoyed that one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was a good one. Well, let's talk about your collection and building it up, man. I want to hear about that first animal that you officially started breeding, and I want to hear what you got going on right now, what you've been building on. I want to hear about the buildup.
Yeah, I'd say the first animal, like you said, is probably where this just like completely snowballed. So always, like I said, I've been keeping these reptiles forever. And then you have this and you have that, but then it's just like these random things. Well, anyways, I stumbled onto Burmese Python, and this was 2015. And the reason was I love the Burmese pythons, the normals. And when you go to a show, you can kind of say, all right, I like this, and go back and research. But with the Berms, you couldn't ship. So it's like, I went to Repticon. I was like, if they have a normal Burmese python, I'm getting it. And because you have to jump on it, right? Because I can't go order it somewhere else or look around. All right. So anyways, I get this Berm, 7-foot male, no big deal, just a really beautiful snake. Bring it home, and I just fell in love with it. It was so laid back and so calm. And so I just started looking around Georgia, and I found somebody with a hypo. And at the time, allegedly, there's only 2 hypos in the state of Georgia. I don't know who's keeping tabs on that, or if that was just I don't know, somebody spreading a rumor, but I ended up tracking down one of the two hypos, got it, and then I just started thinking, well, I could start breeding these because there's none in Georgia. They just kind of like, I don't know, dried up. I don't know. There just weren't anybody working with them. And, you know, some states at that time had a whole bunch. If somebody's breeding, they would eventually have berms were easy to get, but they were really hard to get in Georgia. So I just started tracking down people that had them. Hey, if you're ever in a position you need to get rid of this snake, let me know. So people took advantage of that. So all of a sudden I just started accumulating some berms. And that's where this whole thing started, was just to get some berms going in Georgia because they're hard to get. And then there's only so many berms you can get. There's only so many mutations you can work with. So then I was like, well, let's see what these ball pythons are about. And then so I was doing just those two for a little bit. And my brother had a retic, and he had to move to Florida. So he's like, hey, man, you want my retic? So all of a sudden now I got a retic, fell in love with those. And then it just, as you know, it just starts accumulating. And now you work some boas in there, and I got Borneos and got a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, so it really just started like this mission to like, let's get berms reestablished in Georgia. In 2017, they opened up to where you can ship, and you know, just kind of exploded from there. So right now, what I have now, I would say mostly it's shifted to mostly retics now. So I do a lot of retics. Then I have like some berm. I don't know what you'd say. I guess you'd say projects, but I like working. I have some berms that just look a little different from some of the other berms I've seen. So it's not necessarily a specific mutation, just a line that's like, this one looks a little neat. This one's a little brighter. So just kind of working with a few of those. So I try to have a couple berm clutches a year. But really it seems to be mostly retics, and then I'll sprinkle a ball python in there just to keep you guys guessing.
All right. Well, the Burmese thing is pretty interesting. Like you said, you know, when the law came in place where you could only sell within your state, where people thought it was going to hurt a lot of the breeders, in my opinion, it really opened a door for the people that were breeding them in the state. Albino shot up in price like 2 or 3 times what their normal value is. Normal's 2 to 4 times their value. And, you know, guys like you that were passionate about it had to put a real effort into finding maybe 1 or 2 hypos you had in your entire state.
Right.
So the Burmese thing's cool. You jumping in the pie project yet? You get that fever? You're going to wait a couple of years?
I think I got to wait. I think that's a little outside of my level of entry. But yeah, they're awesome. They're incredible. So it'd be exciting to see what people do with them. And then I can maybe feel it out and put my toes in the water, perhaps. I don't know.
I know a guy.
We all know a guy.
Right.
I'm pretty good friends with a guy that was kind of early in the pied and albino pied berms.
Nice.
Really, yeah. Early is like not that long ago because it just popped up, and now they're everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you know, as soon as one person said they had it, no one had to keep it secret anymore, and then the floodgates open, and more people realized they had it.
Absolutely.
But,
and that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the pie berm is definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if you have a morph you're really fond of at the moment.
I like the pies. Labyrinth is amazing because it's so inconsistent and so variable. So that's always fun because they're not really gonna all look the same. But what I really like is with the berms, it seems to be the hets show up very visually. They're expressed pretty clearly. So I like not creating an actual recessive gene, but just putting a lot of hets together and manipulating that pattern. So an albino will brighten them up significantly. A het green will really spread out that pattern, and the het granites will kind of jagged it up. So if I can take parts of these recessive genes and just make a weird looking, unique normal, that's really what I love. Just really something that nobody else can really recreate. Thinking outside the box a little bit. That's what fires me up.
Okay, I like that. That's definitely a different angle to play on that one.
Right.
Well, you know, the Lacey Act is a big fucking conversation again. Everything's trying to get overturned. You know, considering how difficult it was for you to find berms when the Lacey Act was going on, if, God forbid, it passes again, we go through the whole no traveling over state lines. If you saw that day coming, would you go out and buy more berms to be the berm guy in Georgia? Because I would like to think you'd have minimal competition.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely be a something I would do. Try to get as many as I could. There's another guy in Georgia, Black Diamond Herps, Aaron Mathis, like probably one of my best friends, and so he has a lot. So with him being in Georgia, because when I met him, he was in Virginia, and his job transferred him down here. So me and him working together would be huge, right? So instead of having one berm guy, you have two, and we can, trade off, do like draft picks. You pick one, I pick one, and that way we could really have a strong bloodline in Georgia. So working with people like that would be huge if this does go down. Instead of just like hoarding and limiting yourself, really try to partner with some people who you really trust and have that same like mindset as you, so you can still get, really nice animals.
All right. I always like
Maybe
that.
a co-op.
Co-op? Do a co-op, man.
Is that what we
The
call it?
Georgia
I don't know.
community, man, you guys are a tight-knit group. Like, you guys, you Georgia boys, all have your little clique. I respect it. I love your clique.
Yeah.
I use my way in occasionally, but I love your guys' clique down there.
I feel like your honorary Georgia clique there, especially after that weekend in Grovetown.
Grovetown was nice.
Just meshed. Yeah. Georgia,
well,
man, incredibly blessed that I don't know. I guess because that's where I really got into it. So that's really all I know. But like, we're all just we network, we have events together, and we're just really, I don't know, just really bond, and it makes it like way more fun. Because if it's just like three of us doing it, I don't know if it'd be as fun. It's fun because it's all of us working together, and that helps the business side of it too. I have a buddy who I went to college with, and I've been out of college forever. And he just messaged me the other day, hey, do you have any ball pythons? I said, no, but I know, several of the best breeders, at least in the Southeast. What are you looking for? And I could shoot this message out. Hey, I got a buddy. What do you guys have in this price range? We're able to find him an animal. So that's just always really good to do, which I don't think that's outside of the ordinary of what most people do, but it's just cool that it's this local, so we can meet up and hang out and all that good stuff. And then bring you into Grovetown and get you in the mix. Raining jello shots on you and Holker. Always one of my favorite activities.
Yeah,
Yes,
I don't imagine. Are you going to Tennessee in a couple weeks?
I'm not on Easter weekend. Nope.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, you should. Tennessee is a great time. Plus, any chance to hang out. I'm only going to come down to Georgia so many times. Me and George is a rarity, sadly. If Mickey keeps on putting more shows,
soak it in.
Yeah. Now, we'll see. The show schedule coming up, and, everybody knows we push it. Mickey, unbelievable promoter, starting to do more show me shows. He's moving a little into the Southeast. He's going to go a little west this year. No offense to any promoter, unless you're Repticon. Really love Mickey. I think he's one of the better guys in the game right now. Brings a good product, really brings people together, always goes above and beyond. There's not a ton of promoters out there over the years that were like that. I'd like to say more of the modern day guys are getting better. But back in the day, man, holy fuck, shows were awful. But they're definitely getting a lot better now. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mickey. So I did, I guess I've just done the 2 Nashville, and I've done both of those, man. And there's just an energy at those shows. I don't know, just everybody's fired up. We're all just hanging out. It is like a party. There's not any tension I don't know. It's just like it's all of us doing a show instead of a bunch of different tables. I don't know if that makes sense. You have to be there to experience it maybe, but it's just like, just like it was at Grovetown, you have it was like we're all together. I don't know. Hey, yeah, there you go.
That's a solid one, right?
That's us. Yeah.
I didn't have my hand in that one. I think that's Mickey's work.
This is actually Aaron. So the berm. So the gentleman here on the horn section, that's Aaron, Black Diamond Herp. I talked about with the berms. He is pretty good at these memes. So yeah, that was his promotion for that last show.
Nice. So let's go back to the berms one more time, and then we can jump around a little bit.
Stay in it.
We can stay in as long as you want, bud. We actually have never really talked berms on this show for more than 5 minutes, and that's probably a reach.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So let's just say, Lacey, I kicked in years ago, and you may know this, or maybe don't remember this. A lot of the big constrictor guys ran to Texas. They moved from all over the country to go down there because Texas was one of their better states. Of course, when everyone goes to the same place and we're all a competition now, I don't think it worked out as they planned. I know some people did go out of business because of it. Would you ever follow your passion of Burmese pythons to another state if you didn't think you could sustain what you were doing in Georgia?
I, I would say at where I'm at now, probably not. If I was to a level to where I could put that as the high priority and not like my actual job, yeah, I would. But I think one of the important things to kind of take from that in life in general, right, is when you get dealt these cards, you have to learn to kind of roll with it and mold and change yourself. So I think that would be an opportunity for me to reflect and say, okay, Berms may not be coming to fruition right now. Where are we trying to go? Where else can we go? What's another direction? Because a lot of times those things happen in life, and that's an opportunity for you to change that will help you out long term. Does that make sense?
That
So
makes
I
sense.
would take it as an opportunity to reflect and say, okay, what is it about the Berms that I like, or which is like maybe the line breeding. So that's maybe where you work with like the locality boas or something like that. Where can I have this application and sustain it long term? I think when you back yourself in a corner and say only Berms, I have to center everything around Berms, you're actually going to hurt yourself and potentially hurt, I don't know, not say hurt the hobby, but you won't be as effective because you'll just be a one trick pony, right? Whereas if you say, okay, you can broaden what you're after, and you can, I don't know, like maybe there's something you could experience in working with bull snakes that you're going to love more. And the more you love something, the better you're going to be at it, right? So if I'm like, yeah, I like the Berms, you're never really going to branch out. You may discover something that you were missing with the Berms. And at this point, I'm talking about Berms metaphorically. That's just symbolic to just something that might happen in life, right? If you get let go from a job, instead of losing your mind, you find something else that you may be better at and actually come out ahead because you'll be able to put more of yourself into it. So I went a little deep with you on that one and kind of flipped it, but that's how I would approach it, right? There's a larger picture here, moving the Berms away from me. So what am I supposed to get out of this and go a different direction? I'd still have Berms. I just wouldn't center my business around it.
Understandable. Well,
Were
what
we able to
percentage of your
follow
business would
that?
you say? To an extent, I have no comment on anything you just said, but Ben has a comment.
No, I was saying I followed it.
Yeah, you with me? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Run it back, and then maybe it'll come.
It's funny because I've seen some pretty big breeders of certain species where the market shifted or got flooded or something happened, and they were so tied to the one species that they didn't know what to do. I've heard stories of people dumping, 250,000 leopard geckos in I probably shouldn't say that, but things like where they just produced so much of something and then they couldn't really get rid of them because there was a market shift or something, and you get stuck. Like if you don't have the idea of a bigger plan or a bigger picture, then yeah. And if you're not learning from the shifts in the market or shifts from what's going out there, then you're going to put yourself into a bad position eventually.
Yeah. And,
right.
Even with mutations, anything, there's always constant shifts in this industry. A lot of times you can't even get ahead of them. They're going to happen, and a lot of it's out of your control.
Right.
Double down on spider gene ball pythons. Heck yeah.
This is the time to buy, man. Stock is way down in spiders right now.
Right.
This is when you buy. It's going to come back up again. Good out there and get your spider ball pythons.
Tell me about it. And deserts. Yeah.
And I think,
I'll
too, like...
deserts. I got you this year, buddy.
If you get too caught up in predicting trends or chasing trends, and that's a side of it too, right? There's so many nuances to the breeding because you got the selling, you got the photography, you got just talking with people, you got just the oddity of it. If you're pursuing, if somebody's like real business minded, and that's what fires them up, I want to guess the trend, I want to move the trend, then that's going to keep you engaged. But the point I'm getting at is if you really just do what you like, you'll have long-term success, right? Because if you're trying to chase a trend, but you don't really love that trend, you're just trying to be trendy, you're going to burn yourself out. So I do Borneos, and I don't know if anybody likes Borneos. There's 5 of us, maybe a 6th person this year who actually likes Borneos, but I love them. And so if you're just working with something you love, you're going to make cool stuff, and you're going to be able to stay in this a long time. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, right? Just remember that fourth grader who was on the golf course catching frogs. What got you into this, and what do you love? And that's going to keep you. So when a law changes and you can't do it, you won't be stuck with that one species. You'll get into something else that you love.
Well, and again, I'm not going to, like you said, run it like a business. The reality is, if it's going to be a business, you have to treat it like a business. But when you work with living animals, there's always a passion there. A lot of people got into it early, and a lot of people that come into the hobby just seeing what they think they can make financially. Those people never last in the hobby. You get maybe 3 years out of them tops. It's not what they expected, and they run the fuck away.
Right.
So,
exactly. Burn themselves out.
We can get into some Borneo talk. I was lucky enough to be friends with Matt up at Philly Herpological years ago at the Hamburg show. Seen him in that region. Matt's definitely one of my favorite guys. My tragedy is I tried getting into Borneos once. Got some animals from Matt, a couple other miscellaneous, and then I had a thermostat malfunction. I lost everything. Just in that rack system. No. It was just a Borneo rack. I'll be honest, I haven't been able to get back into them since. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago. Like, it was just so fucking tragic to me. It's not that I lost interest. I just never really went back to it.
Right. Yeah. That's tough to come back from.
But, he was into the Ocelot project back then. And of course, you can't not like that. His extreme granite stuff.
Right.
Love his granite stuff. 2 years ago, he had a few really nice clutches from those. The blues, I like the blue ghost stuff's really beautiful.
Blues, incredible.
Like I said, I've always been a big fan of Borneos. I don't know if that'll ever not be a niche community, unfortunately, but I've always really liked the species.
And maybe that's why I'm drawn to it. Is like they're kind of like they fly under the radar. They have some earth tones. Maybe don't have the bright stuff like the blood pythons, but Rob Christian, he's doing some stuff that I've never seen with them. And I think, I've had some real good conversations with him because we're Borneo bros and we just kind of nerd out on them. And it's hard to find somebody who can nerd out on them. You obviously probably can. But, we're talking about, we just got some T positive Borneos just started popping up. And I said, man, they don't look the same as some of the bloods. And he's like, look, Matt, we just got it. So they're coming from muted down like wild animals. He's like, but you start taking these line bred, brighter, best of the best, and then work the albino into it, you'll really see them pop. So I think with like that mindset that Rob has is like, make these better, keep the best of the best. That extreme marble that Matt has. Like if you listen to Matt's story, or he sent me like I don't know what they did, like a autobiography on it or something. He's been selectively going to these shows and picking up this one and this one for a decade, 15 years to get there. So, so I think there's a lot that can be done with them. And Rob has just put out some stupid nice animals, really bringing out the contrast and working a little bit of that ocelot, but working a little different angle to it. He's got some black stuff too. Just got this real deep, dark color. And I think that's why I liked it, is because it's funny talking to Matt. So I was like, Matt, tell me about these Borneos. Like, I need to know about these genetics. How does it work? And he's like, they're not really recessive or co-dominant. Is like, it's just this pops up. And so like the ocelot just randomly popped up. And so that's what I liked about it, is you're not really making an albino. You like this pattern on this one. So I'm going to make that more of that pattern in this clutch, and then more of that pattern. So you're kind of just like making it up as you go along. And I don't know, that's why I kind of like talking about the berms, just making a normal that looks different from all other normals. So maybe that's why I was drawn to it. But they're cool, and maybe I don't know. I want to fight for them and get them some appreciation. I don't know, but they're fun to work with. They're cool animals.
The bloods and Borneos are tough. Really quick, I want to go back to one thing, the ocelot project, because again, I love the ocelots. Like you said, Matt going to shows and just selectively picking stuff out. I know the company's table that he bought that off of at the Hamburg show, and of course, it was a unique stripy animal. But it's not like you've never seen a stripy animal in Borneos before. They're not uncommon. Right. Just this one happened to be a gene, and worked out to make the ocelot project, which is, again, one of my favorite projects for the Borneos. But kind of going back to talk about like Borneos and bloods as a whole, and getting the recognition they need. I've been staring at the Barker's bloods since 2002. Like, I have stalked all their galleries, I've kept an eye on everything, and if there was ever a collection to truly put bloods mainstream, I would have always thought it was going to be them, but it just never took off. You know, Tim Bailey has the what is it, rod iron? Is that how it's? I think it's rod
Oh
iron.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Thing's
he made
stupid.
a batik wrought iron, and it might even have had T negative in it or T positive. I don't know what's more common in that project at the moment. But it was a very small clutch, and I think it was like 1 or 5 eggs. Ben, you might remember when we were talking about it with him,
Yeah.
but he hit the odds and fucking hit everything in one animal, and it was a really great looking animal.
Yeah. Awesome looking. I wasn't
But,
really even looking for bloods at the time, and then I started looking at that when we had that conversation with Tim Bay. Seems like every
Maybe I
time
will
we
do
have
some
somebody on
bloods.
here. Yeah.
yeah, and again, you know, like you said, when there's a passion for this hobby, you know, some people are more responsible and they focus on one species and do great things. And then there's other people that still do great things with a lot of different species. But, you know, I find as a breeder, it's very difficult to be even notable within a species if it isn't your entire focus. Like I've got some cool corn snake stuff,
Yeah,
you know, but I'm not really going all in like I might with some other species I work with. So, you know, I love the balance. I love having all the stuff. It's really tough to be great at all of them when it comes to line breeding and stacking genes and just
yeah,
doing things to better the look of the animal.
right. Yeah, especially when they're taking up. You know, if you're doing a berm and they take up a lot of space, you can only keep so many. So how do you really line breed it when when you have a limited area and you have these giant
Yeah.
snakes? So you're right. Yeah.
Well,
So you either like say I need all berms, or I don't know if you do like I do and have some other things taking up space.
Mm-hmm.
so like I said, so Matt, I think I pre-warned you. There is no direction in this podcast. We are fucking ADD, ADHD. We're all over. So I'm going back to
That's the
berms
way
now
I
because you're
want it.
talking about the space they
Wait.
take up.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. By the way, my screen's frozen. So if you're raising your hand, I don't know what's going on.
I'm like doing like
He's
raising
raising
the room.
both.
Yeah, I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, man. Can you go through like 101 care? Because that's one of the things we like to do on the show is to talk about like care for anybody that's listening. 101 care with Borneos, since we're on it.
And I'm
Like,
jumping out and jumping back in to get this fixed. So you do your thing.
okay.
Okay.
So yeah, if you could just go over like basic care and how to breed them, what temperature you keep everything at, like incubation, the whole deal.
Okay. So with the Borneos, really keep them pretty similar to like the ball pythons, maybe a little cooler. So the 82 kind of number, 80, 84 maybe, but they hang around that 82. Let's see, what else would you want to know? I have adults in a 32 quart up to a 41 quart tub, so they don't get huge. I do have, I don't know how big it is. There's ARS rack. It's got big tubs in it, so it's like a wider
3x3?
41 quart. Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually think it is a 3x3, and they have tons of room in there. So I have a few in there. So again, that's the temperature. Breeding, mine seem to go ahead.
I was gonna say, are they like bloods where if you get them too hot, they get real like temperamental? So when you start getting them up into the like upper 80s, they start getting like nippy.
Yeah, so they do that thrash when they get a little warm. Maybe they just have more energy. But then I also have some that like, so when I'm growing them up, they're in a 28 quart, and so they're in there with the ball pythons. They're at an 86-ish, and they do fine. I don't notice much difference there. But the bigger ones do seem to give you a little thrash, and they're hard to hang on to when they get like that. But with breeding, mine cycle the same time as like the ball pythons, even the retics and the berms. So I'll start pairing as the room cools, which my stuff's in the basement. And so the ambient just drops with the season. So I start pairing November, December. But if any ovulation I've gotten is usually March, April. So they probably really don't start cycling until probably January, February, maybe even March. But I go ahead and get it in there because I don't want to miss it. Incubation, just like a ball python, right around that 60-day mark. They might go a little longer, maybe in like the mid 60s. And I think I even had one hatch close to 70, but I don't know if that's just because I was incubating a little cooler. Like I think it was like 86 degrees at that time. So yeah, and they're pretty. They're easy to keep. I think their rumor wants that they have attitudes, but they don't. They're chill. They don't hold as easily because they're ground snakes. When they're up, they don't really know what's going on. So you kind of have to like tuck them and like cradle them and caress them, which is just a nice bonding experience anyway. That's not weird.
Sounds hot.
Who doesn't like being
Right?
correct?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
I can't remember last time I was caressed, in all honesty, and it makes me sad thinking about it.
I'm telling you, yeah, right? So I'd have to do it with my Borneos. Fill that void.
So, you know, you had mentioned that you put your males in, but you're not getting your ovulations till months later. You know, with a lot of species too, which a lot of people don't really think about, because, you know, you're talking about cooling, which a lot of people have taken cooling off the table almost completely with most python and boa species.
Right.
You know, a lot of people realize it's just not necessary. Your house is going to do it no matter what. It's out of your control to an extent. Um, a lot of times too, what you got to really think about is just the introduction of the animal. As we know, it builds follicles, and Jeff really always said it best. You know, in the wild, the chance of finding a mate is low odds. So when you do,
Right.
you need to fucking develop, and you need to get this done. So, you know, you putting your males in, maybe in your opinion, is a little bit early, but that could be doing all the promotion for follicle development to even get you to where you get your ovulation. So
Right.
like you said, I wouldn't change
It's a
it.
good point.
But, you know, even like boas, like I've been talking boas a lot of people lately, and like we don't cool. And I'm starting to get a bunch of litters right now. And like I was talking to Ben Russo about it, and he was talking about how it's really early. He will not typically get a boa litter in the winter months, but I pair my boas year round. And because of that, we always have a very high percentage of the collection that'll go. And we could get a litter every month of the year because of it. And really, I just see what the animals want to do. I put that male in there and he's all excited. I'm not going to take him out, but if I put him in for 3 or 4 days and he's at the other side of the cage, he's coming out and he's going to get fed a few more times. We're going to try the next month. Um,
Right.
so,
That's
like I
smart.
said,
Yeah.
I believe in year-round breeding. Now that we're full ambient and all that, we don't really do a cool down. I know there's barometric pressure changes. I know our humidity is going to change during the year, but year after year in different settings, we've proven that it's just not necessary. How necessary is it with the Borneos? Like, is that just a communal thing? Is that going based on old science? Like, why do you guys do that?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. It's just
I can
the
save that one
way
for
with my
Matt if
research,
you want.
right? Like how do yeah, what's this why how does this work? What do I need to do? And that's kind of what everything said. So that's why I did it. Um so again, my basement, so I don't do ambient. They're all set up, thermostats, heat tape, all that. But the basement itself has this phenomenal odd natural cool down, and so it'll stay above 70, even up to 80 during the summer, and then in the fall it will drop. Once the temperature starts dropping in Georgia, it will drop 2 degrees every 2 weeks. It's wild how the room does it, and I just let it do it naturally. I have no other heating in there, and it's just 2 degrees, 2 degrees, 2 degrees. um, and so with the retics, they tend to go off food when they're ready, right? So you can throw a male in there if they haven't gone off food, and they'll throw that sucker across the cage, and they're not accepting it. And then one time they'll just take the food in just a really soft way because they're usually slamming it. And you're like, that's odd. Next time you go to feed, they won't eat. Throw a male in there, they lock up, they ovulate in a couple weeks. And so I haven't had any females go off feed besides after that cool down or as it starts to come back up. So I just kind of that's the way I do it. That's why I've had the best success. So going back to the Borneos, it could just be like an old methodology, or just you have that comfort zone or that habit. This is where I have the most confidence, so I'm going to start pairing then. Also, potential issue with Georgia, that room does get hot. Fertility of the male. I don't know if you have issues with that. I had in 2018 every animal I had slugged out because I kept it warmer that winter. And so
Yeah.
the only thing I could really tie that to is the male wasn't fertile. So a little
Or you
more confidence in my male being fertile.
or you cook this sperm. I mean, when you run males a little bit
Right.
hot in almost any species, I mean, you run into cooked sperm,
Right.
and those little guys are useless. I mean, we've all
Yep.
tried that
So,
ourselves,
yep.
being humans. I know you have.
Time or two.
So, by the way,
But yeah,
because I
so
went for, did you guys finish your Borneo care conversation? Because I kind of jumped back in and hijacked the fuck out of
Yeah.
it like always.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
touched on everything we need to, and your timing was just perfect, like always.
Perfect. All right, I like that. That's what I'm here for. Good timing. I like
Right?
that little hand you got going on there. I hope people are
Right?
watching this.
Yeah, it's visual. It's visual.
It's all about visuals, bud. I would not watch the show if it wasn't on YouTube. I'm just putting it out there. You guys want to talk about Dwarf Berms?
Yeah, let's talk about Dwarf
Yeah.
Berms.
So, and we're gonna go back to Bloods. Let's talk. Where is the Dwarf Berm project overall in the United States right now? Like, who's been doing the most with it? How far have they taken it? And how hard is it to believe when you buy a baby snake and someone tells you it's not going to get big? It's actually not going to get big in the big constrictor community.
Okay. So Dwarf Berms, how much do we put out there? I don't think it's being utilized the way it should. I haven't seen any pures since 2017. Bob had some. And had I known what I know now, I would have bought as many as I could. I feel it manipulates the pattern significantly. I think they look different. I think I have some dwarf blood accidentally in my clutch. Like, it wasn't, not accidentally, meaning it was a berm. It looked odd, and then its babies looked really weird, and the snake's really small. So it kind of pieced it together. I think it does a lot to the pattern and the color. There's several people who have like F2 half dwarfs, but they don't seem to be like depthening the dwarf. They just have like a 50-50 and breed them together. So they're not really like, getting back into higher percentage. And maybe like, maybe some people keep it under wraps and working with it. I have several half dwarfs, and they stay small. I have a breeder. He was 2017 male in a 32 quart.
Okay. Wow.
And he's not going to get big. I have the dad of him. This goes back to the Lasiak days. I don't know where this animal came from. I didn't ask. It was available, so I got it. So I don't know a lot of background, right? That's what's kind of cool about the berms, because in 2014, 15, if a berm came up, you just got it. Don't tell me where you got it. Don't tell me much about it, because I don't want to know. But somehow it's in Georgia, right? I know where I bought it. I met you at Publix, and I brought it home. That's all I need to know. But anyways, this snake is probably 8 years old, and he's like, can y'all see me? Ooh, maybe this big?
Kind of.
He's
all right.
4.5 feet. So there's got to be something going on there, and he is just this neon yellow. So anyways, I think there's a lot that could be done with the dwarfs, and my birds don't get huge anyway. 9-10 feet, maybe 11 would be like a big one. So they don't get monstrous. But again, yeah. So I think there's a lot that can be done. I think it throws a different pattern. The locality retics kind of do the same thing, right? A motley in one locality looks different from a one in another locality. So you can really manipulate, make things look different by working that other blood in there.
And with the retics, it's Slayer Island is the original dwarfs.
I don't know which one is the original dwarfs, because there's so many. I know the super dwarfs is Kalatoa. Those are the real small ones, yeah. And then I think Karampa is a really, really small one too. That might be called a super dwarf. But yeah, I don't know on the other ones.
So now, talking about dwarfism and these guys. So your experience in the retic community, how many generations after putting a full-size reticulated python mutation into a dwarf, going back and breeding it before you start noticing smaller animals again? If you don't know, it's okay.
So I feel like there's. So I have a 50% Kalatoa, which is the super dwarf. She's almost 4 years old, and she may be 4 years old, and she's like 5 feet long, and that's just at 50%. So it's pretty small. I have so Travis Warren, he worked a lot with the G stripe. I have a 62%. So we don't really know the locality. He just said the original G stripe was a dwarf. 62%, and she's like, she's 2015. She's had clutches, so very mature. She's a small 9 feet, right? Like
Mhm.
the dwarfs seem to say thinner. They don't get that mass, right? Whereas like a 9-foot mainland still may be this big around, right? She's small. So I think you can have a good percentage and it's going to make a difference because the mainlands are so big. So even if it's, I don't know, let's call it 30%, it's still going to be smaller, but that may be, I may perceive it different having 17-foot snakes, right? I'm like, oh, it's tiny. It's only 12, right? Whereas somebody might be
Yeah.
like, holy crap, that's a giant snake still. So tough to answer your question. But I do think working that blood in there, as long as you're in probably 25% or higher, you will see and feel a difference.
Well, I guess one of the reasons that I was bringing that up is because, in all honesty, the idea of a dwarf berm is very fascinating. I've always liked berms. I've always hated the size, and I've always been really bad at selling big constrictors to people. I feel like I almost talk
Yes.
them out of the sale by just not shutting the fuck
Yep.
up.
That's
So
good.
it's never really been boas are as big as I want to go. Um,
Mhm.
I am fascinated by some of the retic projects. I like Travis a lot. I love the Rennick Ghost genetic stripe stuff he has. He showed me some of the parents he was doing a couple years ago. He didn't make it public, so I'm not going to talk about his parents, but again, very unique idea he was going with it. Um,
Uh-huh.
that stuff fascinates me. I kind of want a Rennick Ghost pied when someone produces one for the first time. I think Blakey 2-inch has a chance of that really soon, and
That's right.
that fascinates me, but I don't know if I'd ever want to breed them. I think that might be a little more of just something I'd want to have because, again, my experience, even helping friends that do work with berms and retics, selling those animals occasionally, it's never gone well. I honestly,
Right.
I can't sell big constrictors.
Yeah, I think that's a good practice to have, and I'm kind of the same way. I don't know. I don't present them in such a way that it's like I don't know. We're like I'm sweetening the deal. Like it's not a sale. It's like this person has to come to me, and in the engagement of the conversation, I can, in a sense, almost deter or kind of engage further in it just based on the questions they're asking. So that's a good practice to have. Somebody's like, "Hey, man, what retics you got for $100?" We don't need to deal with that, right? Or if somebody's like, "Hey, what do you have available?" I would just ask, is there something specific you're looking for? And if they can come back with something intelligent or makes me feel like they know what they're talking about, then I can get deeper into it with them, if that makes sense. But somebody's like, I don't know, I like something bright. Sometimes, I just approach that a little differently. And somebody's like, yeah, I really love the purple albinos. And if I could get, a platinum in there, that'd be cool too. Then I know that this person knows what they're getting into a little better. But yeah, I think that is, I mean, it's always in the back of my head, where are these snakes going? Does this person know what they're getting into? The good thing about it is if you are getting a baby, you grow up with it. And if you are working with it, you do kind of learn their tendencies, and you can learn their tendencies as a baby as opposed to a big snake. If you dove into like I don't know, a couple-year-old retic, that feeding response is probably going to catch you one time. But, if you're opening up a little tub and a feeding response from a snake this big, you have a chance to learn it and grow with it. But I definitely
I mean,
know what you're saying.
my biggest thing with retics is they're smarter than me and they know it. So I don't like
Yeah.
getting overly involved. Um, they're probably, in my opinion, like they're up there with like king cobras, and I've always found eastern indigos or indigos in general to always be not that I'm trying not to be weird here, but you can see it in their eyes that they're thinking as they're staring at you, and that makes me
Oh
uncomfortable.
yeah.
Um,
They're insane at pattern recognition. They know your schedule. They know what you're doing. They know what cage I'm going to next. So yeah, they're very intelligent at that. But I just kind of look at it. They're like an algorithm. So you can predict them because they're predicting you. So you can learn their tendencies pretty good. But they're studying and they're learning. But they're pretty consistent in how they're going to behave.
it's good. Yeah, I know Kevin McCurley had an article in Reptile magazine forever ago. I want to say the cover of that had the golden child orange ghost on it, maybe? Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
But
It sounds
he was
pretty
talking about,
cool.
oh, it's pretty badass. I'm gonna find that for you. I'm gonna take pictures of that for you tonight. This past week I spent hours going through all the vivariums to find pictures from vivariums from the 90s. I even found
Yeah.
articles that are relevant to what's going on with US Ark right now back in '97. So I gotta get those scanned in and put them out there. But going back to that article really quick, and like you said, talking about the intelligence of the animal, he has this whole thing he talks about tongue flicker and how you can really read
Oh
what the
yeah.
animal's thinking based on tongue flicker. And the most
Yep.
amazing thing about him having that in that article is when I'm at a show and I'm even having a kid hold a ball python for the first time, I can explain to him what's going through the animal's head based on the tongue flicker, and it's
Right.
pretty much spot fucking on every single time.
Hmm.
So great article. I might find that one for you, but like I said,
Yeah.
scary smart species with a lot of size, you know, maybe not for me.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is a mistake is just that much more significant, right? If you get a feeding response from a ball python and it bites you and wraps you up, it's not a huge deal. If a 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot snake does, it's going to be a big deal. So I think that margin of error for increased intensity, I guess you could say, is what's really bad about it. Because you have a bull snake, a garter snake, it may have a feeding response and hit you, but it's no big deal. When you're dealing with those retics, it can really jack you up.
Oh, we've seen plenty of videos. We've seen plenty of deep gashes on just grazes. I mean, it's definitely not a
Right.
beginner's animal by any means.
Mm-mm. Nope.
I mean, most people that have them are experienced people, I want to say. Um, but
Yeah.
so, again, talking about like just like the transformation of your collection, depending on what happens law wise, because, when the Lazy Act first kicked in, I actually got out of a big portion of my boa constrictors because I was afraid. It was my early days on the hobby. I had every penny invested in boas and I had no money to my name and it was all just sitting there and I'm like, holy fuck,
Uh-huh.
if I can't sell these, every penny that I've ever had is just a pet now. So
On.
I did have a really
Right.
good friend of mine talked me into some ball python projects and started working on that for years and went into some other stuff and then later went back into boas. And honestly, the guys that stuck it out when everything went down, the boa guys, the retic guys, the burn guys, those guys spend 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years just building and making everything better while the rest of us ran to ball pythons and other species to get us by for a
Right.
little while.
That's a good point.
And those guys came out with some sick stuff and it all came back around and they did very well for themselves. Me being so afraid and stepping back from bows is probably the worst decision I ever made in the hobby because I truly believe I'd at least be in a better place with bows right now if I wasn't so scared back then. But again, I could have lost everything. So the reason I bring that up is with your collection, the big constrictor guy, every 5 to 10 years, we're going to have this conversation again because I guarantee every 5 to 10 years, these laws are going to come back up again because this is just the way it
Right.
works. Sadly, we might see this every 5 years now. Do you would you move more into like blood pythons and Borneos? And do you think maybe the industry would do the same if that was that little niche, big fat python
Right.
that may never make a single list anywhere? And that's the reality of it. Like I've never really heard bloods come up
Right.
in conversation that much over the years.
Right. Nobody knows what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so to tell you a little bit about kind of a similar but different experience. Really, just a phenomenal dude that I'm good friends with, John DeMiglio. He just very selectively picked up just insane retics over the years, and had a little life switch change, I guess. And so he gave me the opportunity to take over his collection, and so I got a good bit of snakes in a very short period of time. And when you're having to clean larger cages, it takes more time. And so I kind of said, all right, how realistic is it for me to expand in retics and berms and do this long term, from just like a practical standpoint, which we could also tie into legalities and legislations. So anyway, so I said, all right, so what do I like? Ball pythons don't really fire me up. I think the reason I like them is because I only have a few. So if I can sprinkle in if I could, hey, I know that guy. If I could
Yeah.
sprinkle in ball python, it keeps it interesting. Um,
Someone
but,
say ball python.
So, anyways, yes, we did. So, anyways, I said, what else can I expand in where I'm not having to have a 10, 12 foot snake? And I said, well, let's get some more Borneos, let's get some blood, let's get some locality boas, the dwarf boas. So going into the legislation, I think bloods could really be a way to really enter in and replace that, because like you said, you still have the size and the significance, but you don't really have, like, I don't know, not a lot of people are doing them. So anyways, I think that could be a good fit for replacement.
Yeah. Hey, Bob,
I just appreciate the formality Bob has.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else is having this problem, but there's this really gaudy image behind Bob right now, and it's making it really hard to concentrate. Do you have somewhere else you can maybe go?
Gaudy image.
Welcome, Bob. We're going to talk blood pythons for a little while. We'll talk a little U.S. ARC in a second. I definitely want to talk some ball pythons because apparently Matt has like 4 of them. So we're going to have to talk about balls. But
looking to get into my 5th.
Oh, you get your 5th coming. Did you get it from Bob? I hear good things from Bob.
I've heard good things about it. I haven't stepped in there yet. I don't think I'm on that level.
Yeah, you don't want to fuck up a friendship by mixing business, buddy. Just keep it pure. You guys have a good thing going.
Point.
Matt
really
does
do.
have one
We
snake
really
from
do.
me, I think from like 8 years ago.
Okay. Does it look like a leopard gecko?
I do. No, it doesn't. It looks kind of like that outfit he's wearing. Super Cine Het Pie.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's
Uh-oh. Oh. We
Is
do
this-
have like
is this one of the salamander
thing
trips?
going.
That's one of the salamander trips, yeah.
See, now if you would have showed me that image, I'd have come down for one like in a heartbeat.
That's all it took.
That's all it took. I just needed to see a little
I
male
have that
bonding.
hammock.
Okay.
I
I'm
feel
into
like we could fit a 3rd in there. We could fit a 3rd in there easily.
You know,
Might
I
not
did
be
invite
cool,
I did
Bob.
invite Dave to the Miami trip for next month, and he did turn us down. So there's that.
It's a very
What?
difficult month.
Yeah, I invited Dave to the trip for Miami.
And he said no.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing.
That's going to be epic.
April is such a big month for herping in Missouri. It's not even funny. Like, the whole state blows up with herps. I love Miami and I'd love to come down, but I've got so many people coming to Missouri in the state of April. I can't just leave them hanging. And I think the weekend you're coming, I got a crew coming down, and I think even Kaufman might be coming down around then. I just can't do it. I really do
So
next year.
I got like 2 issues. Like the first one is you're not coming to Miami. The second is I haven't been invited to come out to Missouri for some herping.
Well, Matt, have you considered that we've only been friends for a week and I just didn't think I was ready to invite you places yet?
I thought we were well beyond that.
Well, we had some moments in there, bud. But I really feel this
I
past
feel like we
Georgia
did.
show really brought us together. Like, it really made it to the point where I might start telling people I know you, if that's okay with you.
I think I'm ready for that. I think we're ready to go public with this.
Okay. Just because we dragged Bob into this, not just because I wanted to stare at him, just because, again, Georgia is such a great community for breeders, it just felt silly not having him show up. I should have known he was going to wear a romper. I almost put mine on, but I didn't want to make Matt feel weird because I knew he wouldn't have his on.
Right.
Yeah.
When in doubt.
When in doubt. I should have known better. I should have known.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and like always, we're coming back to bloods. Bob, you want to talk bloods with us in a little bit? What do you know about blood pythons? Okay, let's talk about the auction at the Georgia show. So again, you guys always come together. You guys have a great time doing it, and you did fucking awesome at the Georgia show. What was the dollar amount you guys raised?
Just a little bit over 23,000.
And that was matched by, was it ZoomEd or who matched
Yeah,
that?
ZoomEd is matching dollar for dollar of what gets sent into USARC. And we made sure we got the full amount. No one like dipped out on their money or anything like that. So yeah, so I end up, I guess, 46,000 total.
Hey, good on you guys. Honestly, fucking awesome to hear that. The auction was one of the big reasons why I wanted to come down and see you. That was my first Bob auction. I don't think I've ever been able to be part of an Atlanta auction. I stopped doing shows around then. It was a great time. I thought you guys did a fucking awesome job. I think you got the most out of it. like always. Like I said, it was great seeing you guys do that.
What do
Let
you
your
feel
butter
about
up.
the show coming back? So Mickey's bringing that show back to Grovetown in June. It's going to be the same weekend as the Tinley show. Well, Tinley June. So how do you feel about that?
Mixed feelings. I haven't missed a Tinley since like 2007, I want to say.
Right.
Hell, we even went to Tinley when it got canceled.
Right. We went
So,
last year. It got canceled.
yeah, it's hard not to go to Tinley, but I know Chad Halker's not going to Tinley. And that's
Right.
always a big driving force for me to go do anything in life. I got mixed feelings, buddy. I mean, if I went to Tinley, it'd be to have fun. If I came down to Georgia, it'd be to have fun and maybe sell a couple things. So I might be a last minute decision.
So I talked to
What are
Brian
you doing,
Potter. I
Bob?
mean, you kind of have to like decide soon, right? On tables and stuff.
So in all honesty, I do love vending NARBCs, but as you know, us having such a big holdback here and the amount of animals we're selling right now, I'm just not convinced I'm gonna have a table worthy enough to do that show. It's gonna be hit or miss. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of boas that'll be ready to go at that point, and I do love selling boas at Tinley. I'm a little back and forth on it, man. We've talked about this, and in my opinion, Tinley, this June Tinley could be the best Tinley that there ever has been for a vendor. And a lot of reasons. One, there hasn't been a show in a long time. Two,
Right.
a lot of big guys aren't going to this one. A lot of little guys aren't going to this one. If the attendance is there, they're short on vendors, and depending on what your table's looking like, Tinley could be just absolutely fucking unbelievable. I love the Georgia location. I think the Georgia show is gonna have some real potential. I love going down and do another auction with you guys. I really fucking hate that there's another fucking Georgia show the same weekend as a Tinley. I'm gonna talk to Mickey about that as soon as I get off this podcast. But no, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm gonna be last minute on it. Is Chad going to Georgia? Because if you get Chad down in Georgia, that might change my mind real fast.
I talked to Chad. We're kind of wishy-washy. If Brian Potter calls me, so he called me about a week ago. If he calls me, they're pretty desperate for vendors. Like me and him don't know each other like personally. So he went and found my phone number somewhere and called me to ask me if I wanted tables. So I feel like there's a lot of vendors who are not going. Like I'd imagine like some of your larger old school breeders aren't gonna want to go vend. And then again, I think the risk of it is booking the show and then last year getting canceled last minute with a few hours notice. So I think that's kind of an issue for a few guys. Like, what if it cancels again last minute? So who knows?
I'm sure that's got to be in the back of someone's mind. And, Bob, you got to pat yourself on the back. You have really worked on your brand for the last few years to the point where you should expect people to call you to show up to go to places, bud. So, a little pat on the back there for you. Like I said, this new one's tough. Again, it's a rough time of the year because usually stock is very low in a collection. And like you said, the chance of it getting canceled is always going to be there for Illinois, but I feel like Georgia could have that at any moment also. Like we could lose the opportunity to go to Georgia shows overnight. So I don't know, Bob. You know what you need to do? You need to send an employee up to Tinley and you work Georgia. Don't act like you're not big enough, Bob. You got to split it up.
Ooh.
I'm not saying you have to. And if you need an employee and ask nicely, I'll go vend for you at Tinley, buddy.
Split my.
Oh, fucking Bob's gone. I saw him finger fucking something. So I'm not surprised you lost him.
I was just about to say that I could get up my my panda costume.
You can rock some panda. Are you gonna rock panda in Georgia?
Yes.
Or are you
gonna
gonna
rock
Panda's back in there.
Well, Bob,
We're just letting people know
have to
that
change
Grovetown in
gears.
June.
Oh, all right, Grovetown in June. Matt, you're the
Boom.
guest. You're the headliner, buddy. When you talk, we shut the fuck up. You finish what you were saying.
That's right. Oh, that's all. That was the point. That was it. One and done.
Okay, so Grovetown in June. Matt has made the decision. We're all going to Grovetown in June. We're all canceling on Tinley. That's the decision. Okay.
Right here, you heard it.
I'll let you guys know later. I'm going to be a last minute
decision.
decision. Well, If I'm not there, Mike will be there. someone will be at Georgia. I promise you. How about that?
We kind of want you there.
I mean, I kind of want me there too, but it's going to be. Yeah, I need incentives.
And
buddy.
Schultze.
And Schultze. We might double down. Where are we herping?
Yes.
You got a spot where we'll find more than a salamander? Because that might get me down there.
In June, it's a little warm, but I mean, you're literally across the lake,
we got a spot.
across the road from South Carolina, and that's good salamander air territory.
Well, I just said I didn't want a salamander. I'll do anything but a salamander. How about this, Bob? You start your networking. You find us a nice little cruising spot where we could at least put like an hour or two on the road in June, and I'll come down in June.
I'm gonna drive to Grovetown next week and start laying out tin everywhere.
And in a year and a half, when it starts producing, I will be there, buddy.
I'm gonna leave ball pythons all over underneath the tin for you.
Oh, yeah, we can't make those jokes anymore, but I think that's actually happened down in Georgia, but we're not going to get into those details.
The wild.
Don't have to make that edit this out. Well, you know what? I want to talk a little more bloods. You want to talk some blood boas, Because I'm trying to learn a little bit about bloods.
Yeah, go on with the bloods.
I don't know who the fuck I was just staring at, but I was staring at Bob. Matt, I want to get back to what you think the possibility of a shift in the hobby to more bloods over Berms and Retics if at some point we were limited to what we could do with Berms and Retics. Do you think that's the species all the big guys run to? Do you think they hang tight and just make it work? Or do you think they move into boas or some other big constrictor? What would you do, Matt?
Oh, it's back on me?
God damn it, you're the fucking guest. Of course it was back on you. Bob's over there.
I thought, yes. Okay, sorry. I thought I answered that earlier when I went on my like little.
Well, then maybe we gotta edit this part
outside of Retics.
How about this?
All right, no. So I'll jump back in. Yes.
Oh, go.
I think it's super applicable. Because you still have the size, the significance, the intricacies. You still have the opportunity for mutations and genetics like you would have with the Retics. I think it's a very natural shift. But I also see the shift could be into the boas. Just because, I don't know, I just see a lot of consistency there and similarities. I don't see Retics guys really diving into ball pythons. But I do know like some of the Retics guys pick up a couple T positives, T negatives just because they think they're cool to dabble in. So I could see that being a real natural shift.
What is the true hate of Retic and ball python people? Like, what is this? I mean, don't get me wrong. Every community hates the ball python community for some reason. But what is that drive? Like, what is it that you guys really don't like about each other? Like, you're saying the Retic guys would not get into ball pythons. Is it because it's beneath them? Like, is it a selling out moment? Like, why would they not go into something?
No, don't turn it into that. There's no conflict here. We all get along and everybody's good. That's not what I'm saying. It's just two totally different animals, right? Like you have this big thing that moves and cruises and you actually have to handle and work with, and then you have a thing that sits in your hand. So it's just,
okay.
I think if you get into something where you're classified as a retic guy, you probably don't like the ball pythons as much. So you wouldn't shift into that. You need something a little more, I don't know if interactive is the word, but something a little significant.
So what you're saying is,
yes, is that Frank?
Yeah, we're going all in, man. We're bringing the whole community together for you guys. You guys deserve it at what you did in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I just want to say one more thing about this, and then we're going to give Frank a little love because you can't not love on Frank a little bit.
Frank!
So
he's not wearing a hat.
No, not today.
I think we're supposed to be looking at Frank right now.
Yeah, that was too awkward.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I'm into it, but I don't think that's what you tried to do just then.
Totally natural.
Frank, turn your phone sideways.
No, come on. It makes you look taller when you have it that way.
I can't get a. I need to figure out a way to do this here.
Oh, that's fine then.
Yeah.
Is that not working for you? Because it looks like it's working.
Frank's audio is incredible.
Yeah. iPhone 11.
Was that sarcasm, Matt? Because I'm not getting the same experience you are.
No. Oh no, he's like, it's like he's right here with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank.
In spirit?
No, fair
So-
enough.
I feel like he's in the room and in spirit.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
so
true.
just
You
so
always
you know,
are.
yeah, we're not a stirring up shit podcast. Like, I like to keep it as civil as possible. My question on why the retic guys hate the Burmese, or why the retic community doesn't want to work with ball pythons, that was just a fun little question, buddy. Let's not get all salty over it
Right.
and all divided. But with that being said,
I was just playing along with it. I knew that.
okay, I hope so, buddy. Because you look like you turned a little red.
Yeah.
Like you were being very careful about your answer just in case you got canceled. Like I saw what was
think-
going on there.
No, it was Bob's positioning with the crotch that made me red. But
Fair.
Well, Bob, okay, I'll take the Bob out. So I want to say one more thing about this, then we're going to jump around because I want to get some Frank in here and just you guys as a whole. There was that stupid fucking meme this past week of the little boat on its side for US Sark and the bull python guys are on top and all the other guys, or the big guys are on the bottom getting the water out of it. Like, two problems with that. Number one,
didn't see
all
that.
that does is divides people, guys. Like, I don't give a shit how you were going to try to spin it as a positive. There was nothing positive about that. All that did is got a bunch of fucking people on there to make a bunch of comments to get ball python guys bitching about retic guys. Like, what a stupid fucking thing on a timer. In my opinion, the last 2 months, this community has really come together because they have
Right.
to. Whenever we have to, we do. We get a little lazy in the middle. Don't pretend like we don't. But when it's time to come together, we do. And really, I thought that meme was a little distasteful. I like a good meme. I just don't know where the positive that came out of it. And again, you making the comment how retic guys will not get out of retics to go to ball pythons if they couldn't work with it. Like, I feel like that all just kind of goes in this whole what that meme was and everything like that. I mean, everyone saw it. Bob, you were on there in the discussions. Like, what were your thoughts on that as a whole? Like, do you think that was kind of stupid? Like, maybe not everything should be posted?
Yeah, so the guy tried to spin it as he was trying to raise awareness to ball python breeders about USARK. And you mentioned that in the last month or two, the USARK the community really came together and pushed the USARK thing. But who are the people pushing the USARK memberships, right? Me and you had a long discussion about the USARK membership. I'm seeing guys who are posting about, hey, go get a USARK membership and we'll give you discounts or whatever, or shaming people into getting USARK membership. It's all ball python guys. They like it or not, you're a ball python guy, right?
Well, I mean, I have. Don't make it weird, Bob. Don't make it weird.
Yeah, you're a ball python guy. So I'm looking at it and I'm asking the guy, I say, you do realize the bulk of USARK money at auctions, donations, whatever, come from ball python guys. I've talked to the board in Florida. The bulk of the money that goes to Florida USARK that are donated monthly come from ball python guys. There's a few iguana guys, and everyone knows Crutchfield and those guys that donate, but the bulk of it come from ball python guys. So that meme basically setting out to basically shame ball python guys into saying basically we're not doing anything, we're not helping, ball python keepers are not helping, or we're unaware of USARK is total BS. It's like they're basically saying that Burm, Retic, and all the big snake guys are fighting this battle on their own, which I understand. The bans are against their snakes, but a lot of ball python guys also keep Retics, Berms, and all the other stuff. So we are all, kind of in the ship together. And I feel like the ball python guys help a lot, but you were at the auction. There was Berm guys, Retic guys, crested gecko people. There's plenty of stuff being donated. The bulk of the money that was probably raised, like people who bid, were just, all the money was all over the place. Mickey ended up buying a bunch of stuff, and he's a show promoter. And he keeps like 50 different species of animals. So it's not so much all Berm guys or Retic guys are helping, or all ball python guys. It's like kind of a community of it. So I think the meme was really distasteful, and it's really kind of stupid to even post that.
It was definitely bad timing. And by the way, Matt, just so you know,
I didn't see it.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I was not aware that it was not understood that the ball pythons really carry everything. I'm under that impression, right? That's where majority of the stuff comes from. The interest in the hobbies, the entry into the hobby. I always thought the ball python guys we're riding their coattails.
That kind of goes a bunch of different ways with that, in my opinion. I mean, the interest again in the hobby is based on a species typically, and I wouldn't say it's normally a ball python. I just think that people see the opportunity to maybe quit their day job by breeding a ball python. In their eyes, it might be a little easier when looking at the success of some of the bigger guys. Again, like it really was a divided community meme, which I was not a big fan of because, again, we're really doing well right now. And Bob, as for what you're saying, a big thing is to like how many big constrictor breeders are there to every ball python breeder? Is it 1 to 50, 1 to 100, 1 to 150? So we're always going to look like we're doing more, but that's based on a percentage of there's more ball python people than anything else in the industry right now. So it might look that way, but I know a lot of the big guys the big constrictor guys are not doing anything. Just it'll get overshadowed sometime when there's tens of thousands of ball python breeders and everyone's doing just a little bit in that community or a lot. It's going to vary based on the breeder.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's not like a bulk ball python.
Why
breeder.
or how is there a separation?
Right.
What do you mean by separation? Like
I don't understand why they're like why is there like class? I don't know. I never saw it that way. Maybe I'm naive. I just kind of stay in my lane. But it like if you take the auction or the Grovetown show, like Bob said, I mean, we did a lot of liquor sales. We did, the Crested Gut because it was just a bunch of people who like cold-blooded creatures and they're having a blast. I don't usually see it as these guys do this and pull this weight. It's like all of us. Oh, you like bearded dragons? Cool. I have some snakes, and I don't know. I never saw it that way, and yeah, maybe I'm naive because I don't know, stay in my lane and don't realize what's going on.
Well, no, I mean I guess just okay. So, for example, like back in like 2007, Andrew Wyatt got in front of everybody at one of the auctions. I think it doesn't matter what show. It was a Southeast show, one of the RepCons. And this is where the divide kind of started. First, the seed got planted that we could lose ball pythons. And then after that, it was pretty much, just so you guys know, we're going to have to lose the retics. Or not the retics, we're going to lose the berms. But all the berm guys are like, well, what the fuck do you mean we're going to lose the berms? The whole point of you being here is to save the berms, whether it was with Andrew or what we're doing in modern day USR. So there was a little separation in that where the bigger guys thought that they were getting thrown under the bus so we could save the ball pythons. And I do think there was a mindset that started based on that years ago. And I still think there's that in the back of some people's heads now where, the big constrictor guys feel they might get thrown to the wayside again just to save other species. And the reality is there might have to be a little give to make this work. And again, I hate to say it, if the give was to give up one species to save them all, it'd be very hard for USARK not to make the decision to let one species go. So that's the divide. I'm not saying it's a communal divide.
I'd be okay with that.
Some people will be, other people will not be. But again, we have learned with government, if we give a little, they're going to take a lot more. So we might give up one species. We might say, okay, fine, we're done with the berms again. But it doesn't mean they're not going to go after everything else. And it doesn't mean the day's not going to come where a ball python might not make a list. For all we know, they might just lump all pythons into one category together, whether it's a children's python, a Woma python. They might not give a shit someday. The less they have to write and understand is better off for them. So like I said, it's not a full fucking divide, bud. I do think this is a great community. But the reality is, I do think there are some big constrictor guys that thinks that they're going to lose what they have just to save a ball python. And I'm not sure they're happy about that. Hey, if I'm fucking wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit it all day long. But just my experience following USARK over the years, I have heard that attitude from big guys, and I don't blame them because they had something they were passionate about, and then they were told they couldn't do it anymore. Like, people get heated over this.
You got to be able to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that got. Should we talk to Frank? Maybe Frank will lighten things up a little bit. Did we just get a little sour? I feel like
He always has a good perspective.
It's reality.
Well,
God dang
okay,
it, Frank.
well, you know what, Frank and Ben, I want to hear your perspective on this. In all honesty, because it's important. I really want to hear what you guys think about this.
Frank, you can go first.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm kind of scared about it, and especially like with the whole thing with senators down in Florida trying to bring back this whole Lacey Act thing, and now they're talking about some sort of whitelist. Did you see that?
I didn't read anything about a whitelist yet.
Yeah.
A little racist.
So I
Yeah,
heard
relax, Bob.
that, they're going to make a list of species that we can keep, right? This is the stuff that I've been kind of reading and hearing about. This is on one of the U.S. ARC alerts too. So like that would mean like, let's say they put all these species on there that we can keep, but what if they forget about something that's a little less common? You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So
Like-
what you're saying is that they will define what you can keep, and if they forget to put a species on there, you couldn't keep it?
That's
Right.
what I'm afraid of.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
like I have Savu pythons. All right. Not many people, I mean, they're not, it's not something you see every day. And let's say they don't make that list because none of these fish and game guys even think about it. What am I supposed to do with them?
Right.
Great.
And it's so I think about stuff like that, but I don't know. I mean, I hope
The gray area.
yeah, there's always little gray areas and things like that we have to think about now too. But yeah, I mean, the truth be told, I am a little scared about it. I don't think. I mean, if it's anything, there's going to be some give towards the larger species at the probably at the I don't know at the least, but because I think like ball pythons, all this other stuff we have are going to be fine, but for right now, but it is kind of a scary thing. 'Cause I mean, I really don't want to lose anything. Because I mean, I think everyone should have the right to keep and breed whatever they want. Given their state is I guess what is a good word for that? Given their
Are you looking for?
laws
Is it
and things.
freedom? Is the word freedom?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Liberty?
You're gonna have to define that. Well, Frank, I mean, and you're right. Like you said, this whitelist thing, which I'm going to read about as soon as we get done with this. I mean, if we trust the government to cover everything and not forget something on a sheet of paper, we're fucked. Like it's not going to go in our favor.
Right.
I think so. One of the things that, and we've talked about on the podcast several times actually now, but people need to be realizing that it's not just reptiles. We have to keep in mind all the animals, in different states, like we talked about before with New York banning rabbits, cats, and dogs sold in pet shops, and how that's going to pretty much dry up New York for all cats and dogs and rabbits anywhere. You won't be able to find them. So that mentality, right, is like, if you're HSUS or you're a PETA, how do you get people to stop owning animals or stop keeping animals? You got to go after things that either tug at people's heartstrings or tug at their fear strings, right? So you can say, all right, anything venomous, because that's scary. Anything really, really big. And when you ask people what a big snake is, they're like, oh man, 4 foot long is like huge. Anything bigger than that, they start getting, so, okay. Somebody can maybe keep, a 6 foot snake. All right. Anything bigger than that's outlandish.
True.
And so the majority of Americans think that way. So of course, it's easy for HSUS and PETA to say, well, anybody can keep anything they want as long as it's not these outlandish animals like tigers and, you can't. Who would want a boa constrictor that's going to kill your babies? Like stuff like that. It's easy for them to pick them up. But then it's just a stepping stone, right? So we talk about this in everything else. When we start saying, hey, let's allow this to happen. It's a stepping stone where they say, all right, see, we did this. Now look at the next thing that's scary too. So I think one of the things that we try to do, I know all of you guys, I don't know Matt that well, but I know all you guys enough to know that one of the things we try to do is inspire people, the general public, to be accepting of reptiles, to get educated by reptiles, in our everyday life. And it's not just what we put on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but talking to your friends, talking to just people you run into, going and getting your haircut, and all of a sudden mentioning, oh yeah, also I have a snake. And then people are like, you have a what? And then everybody in the whole room is talking about snakes, and you get to tell people they're not all scary. Those little things as a community, if we all do those things, not just supporting the legal end, but also spreading a positive impact on reptiles as a whole, and we can start to guide the whole pet market. We're growing, the reptile community is growing 18%, right? So that's what is the number that I heard from a couple, businesses that are doing reptile sales of products. They're saying that the market's growing 18% year over year. That's unbelievable. There should be a ton of people getting more into reptiles, and to see the country going down a road where it's like, well, more people are getting into them, but we're going to make it harder to keep them. It just doesn't seem to work well. So we got to figure out ways to expand the market. And this is something for Bob. If we can figure out ways to get more reptiles in more hands of people in the general public that have never had them before, you'd have a better shot at not getting things banned or, things like that. So I don't know. I think it's a scary time, and I think it's tough because PETA and HSUS have federal funding that's, so hard to go up against compared to what we can create. But it's not just the legal end that we have to be, reaching out and trying to do, just as reptile keepers as a whole. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, and man, so, and not to get too political here by any means, but you're talking about how we're a growing hobby and we're always growing, and there's more money being generated every year from everything from products like bedding. The argument we've always had, FedEx. Holy fuck, FedEx had a great year, and we all know a lot of it had a lot to do with reptile guys, because I shipped out a fuck ton this past year. I know Bob did. Everyone did. FedEx broke records. They were doing December numbers in like fucking May and June and July. But here's my fear about government in this very moment. We've proven with shutting down the fuck's that pipeline? Why can't I remember that pipeline right now? It's already
Keystone.
Yeah. No, it's proven by shutting that down.
Frank
we did
coming
kill
in.
James. So yeah, big assist on Frank. We'd all just be staring at each other right now. This is why Frank's here. So we've proven that we're not afraid to stop things through government, even if it takes money out of our pocket. So the reality is these next 4 years are kind of maybe the scariest 4 years I've seen, because we're now going back to the Lacey Act within a government that I just don't think is going to give a shit when they get to see the numbers of how much money is being generated every year. And how much money that this hobby put into the economy every year has always been like one of our biggest arguments. I don't know how much weight that's going to have nowadays, and I might be wrong, but I don't think that's even going to matter now. You guys can comment on that, just so I don't feel like I'm talking out my ass.
Did any of you call in for the meeting in Florida? Okay, so they did bring up, right, they brought up the revenue, and they brought up how much money the reptile community generated. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but we're bringing up billions and billions of dollars, how much the overall reptile community generates versus how much is in Florida, which is the large bulk of it. Yeah, all of that got thrown out the window, pretty much. None of that mattered. Like, they were pretty much like, okay, we bring in a lot of money, taxes, blah, blah, blah. We got experts coming on the panel, and they're like, okay, don't care. Big snakes, dangerous, eating our puppies in Florida, and that's literally all they cared about.
Yeah. I ran into a gentleman when I was in Florida this past time. I was just on the beach fishing, and I started talking to a random dude. Not uncommon for me to talk to random dudes on the beach. And his background is he does a lot for conservation, a lot with Florida Panthers, goes into certain areas where they've had sightings, where they're trying to do construction, say whether or not they're allowed to, and so on and so forth. Really nice guy. But when it came to talking to him about Burmese pythons, very, very negative outlook on it. He was talking about how he goes camping down in the Everglades a lot, and he used to be the dumpsters are surrounded by raccoons. All the raccoons are gone apparently now. A lot of other mammal life is gone now. I'm just not fucking convinced that has anything to do with Burmese pythons. Like, there is no way that what
Right?
few Burmese pythons are out there
Right.
completely destroyed the raccoon population. I've been trying to destroy the raccoon population on my property for a year and a half, and I've got nowhere with it.
Right.
These savage fuckers are still killing everything. Like, I'm not convinced that one snake, but the big question is, what happened to all the raccoons then? Like, if you can't blame the Burmese pythons for it, I'm trying to think of another invasive down there that could have actually fucked up that population, and I haven't really thought of one yet.
Now monitors.
Yeah, they have
Have
not.
you done those? Hey, maybe you shouldn't bring up things they're not thinking about, Bob. Make sure you
No.
edit that, bud. 1 minute 26 in. Monitors haven't
Yeah,
really
you
come up in
know,
conversation.
The invasive
Tokay geckos.
species is people, right? It's pushing them out. Isn't that like really the deal? We're trying to shift it onto this animal, but it's us expanding out.
If I had to blame 3 things right now, it would be people, wild boars, and feral cats. That is it. We have destroyed America, guys. The 3 of us together have destroyed everything.
I mean, I'd wager, mate. Well, I don't know. I mean, the more I think about it, I was going to say maybe the cats are spreading toxoplasmosis to the raccoons or something like that, but
Damn it, Frank.
it would be all over the place if that was the case. You know?
That's right.
Well,
That's what they're spreading.
so-
I'm because there
Oh,
is
go
some
on.
evidence they're spreading. What?
I'm not talking. I keep on interrupting you on accident, bud.
I
Like,
just
my
want-
lips are moving for no reason. Could you
Oh.
pause because I got a delay over here?
I just want to
Oh.
hear that word again.
I
Toxo-
don't.
I want to hear that word again.
Okay, how about this? Frank, we all want to hear the word again, but I want to hear a little more passion in your voice, buddy. I want to hear your tongue flicker like you're speaking Spanish.
Flicker. Oh God. Well, I'm trying to think of other things that could be going on down there. You're talking about the raccoons and all.
Do you not want to say the word again, bud? We're all literally staring at you, waiting for it. Like,
There you
nothing
go.
else.
Well, has anyone thought about the fact that tokay geckos could be spreading toxoplasmosis?
There you go.
Is that the word? Nailed it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the word.
Hey, Ben, do everyone a favor. Why don't you go ahead and pop that in the bottom of the screen and define, or get the definition up. Some people are going to want to know what the fuck's going on right now.
Yeah.
The definition. What's the word?
Yes.
There's probably going to be some like wildlife biologist like commenting on here saying that I'm totally off or whatever, but whatever.
Hey,
There's-
Frank, good news for you, buddy. Smart
way.
people don't watch our show. You're okay.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Frank, what's the word? What?
Toxoplasmosis.
So
Oh,
we can carry
yeah.
on talking. Oh,
You
that was
you did a good job.
Yeah.
Toxoplasmosis.
Is it spread by tokay geckos?
That's
By
great.
cats. By cats. I will bring it up.
Yeah.
We can
Uh,
keep talking about Ben. This
yeah.
might take a second. Oh, here we go.
Let me,
No, he's on
Oh, that's
fire.
something you're afraid of it.
Look at that. Interesting side note. It's actually being spread to marine mammals by cats.
Ugh.
Pretty gross.
The dolphins.
Yeah, the dolphins and the sea lions and
Sea
everything.
cow.
Exposure from infected cat feces.
Yeah.
It's
This is
good.
why pregnant women shouldn't be handling litter boxes.
Good
I don't know if
point.
you've known
Okay.
that.
I was gonna say the raccoon situation. The majority of their food is from plant life and other small stuff like that and trash. But the weather, changing in weather,
Trash.
creates possible reduced amounts of plant life. Like you have a bad year for fruit, things like that. A whole bunch of animals are going to suffer from that.
So, Ben, I don't want to shit on that, but have you ever been to Florida? Have you ever gone to Florida and not seen a lot of green? Like,
I'm just saying, we've had a couple weird weather patterns this last
It's
couple
not-
I mean, I don't know. Every time I've gone to Florida, I've seen dead raccoons on the side of the road. So.
Yeah. So you think the raccoon population has gone down because of cars? Their biggest enemy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just something that they're trying to say right now, because I do remember somebody posting just like a magazine article saying is like they were just driving down the road and they were using all this anecdotal evidence, the fact that they didn't see any small roadkill mammals on the side of the road, as evidence that Burmese pythons were eating them all. But there wasn't a scientific paper or any kind of scientific consensus on it. It was just like somebody writing a magazine article about it. So it's not peer reviewed, anything like that.
I mean, it sounds like the Burmese pythons, if that's true, is saving the government money by not having to pay someone to go out there and clean up all these dead raccoons.
Oh.
That's a positive spin.
You know what? My retardedness is really fucking up Frank right now. Like, Frank's actually trying to be smart, and I am throwing his rhythm off. I can tell that look on his face, man. He is teaching, and I'm that asshole in the back of the classroom right now.
It's okay. That's all right.
So we're thinking more of a disease angle on why we're seeing less raccoons over, of course, a Burmese python problem, which is not the case.
But are we seeing less raccoons, or did you meet some bro fishing who told you that he's seeing less raccoons?
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So he wasn't. I wouldn't categorize him as a bro. He's not a bro. I mean, he seemed like a pretty intelligent dude. I was on his Facebook page a little bit, checking out some of the stuff he was posting about, some of the news stories, some of the things he's been an author on, and I give him a lot of credit, but I think we could all be swayed in one direction or another. Here's the thing. It's no different than when you're out in public, like you said, and you bring up a reptile, and someone says, oh, yeah, I just watched Discovery Channel. That Burmese problem's so bad. They're going to be in Ohio before we know it. And then you got to spend the next 15 minutes, not that it's a bad thing, let them know it's really up. But then the reality is, are they going to believe some random dude they just started talking to, or the Discovery Channel?
Right.
Like, you know, you can try to educate. And like you guys said, the lack of education is probably the biggest flaw right now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hell, like I said, I don't know the angle we're going to take on this because, again, the financial side of it might not be the right angle for us. What do we do? Yeah. And again, you guys are going to be down in the Everglades. You think you guys will see a raccoon while you're down there?
I was gonna ask. Okay, so we're gonna do a raccoon to Burmese python ratio. Okay, if we see more raccoons than Burmese pythons, it's not a problem. But we see 50 Berms and 2 raccoons, it's a problem.
So I'm just gonna put this out there.
Yep.
If you're in an area where there's a lot of raccoons, I'm going to make a guess that there might not be any Burmese pythons, and you might want to move on to a new area to go herping.
Or because food is so plentiful,
will be our
we'll find
indicator.
some badass Berms.
So I was actually, an uncle of mine that actually doesn't know a whole lot about reptiles, and he's down in Florida. He had mentioned about a trap that he had in mind for Burmese pythons. By the way, I'm frozen. You guys still hearing me?
I'm good. Yep.
All right. So he had the idea of some kind of trap being created with some kind of soft foam on the door that would go down, but rollers at the base. So as an animal's working its way in, it would trigger a door to come down on it. Does that sound retarded? Or does that actually kind of sound like a decent idea for a snake trap? Did I lose you guys?
No. I'm just trying to think of
phenomenal idea.
I think if Bob didn't say anything right away, it was not a good idea.
No.
Yeah. Bob can't always be witty, but you do try.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in my head like if that would actually work. But obviously, I mean, aren't they paying guys down there like by the foot per berm or something that they catch?
For a long time, yes.
I want to know how many they're actually catching, because remember they had those python hunts couple years ago, and they'd had like 1,500 people going down there, and they'd only catch like maybe 60 or 70 of them.
Right.
Yeah. Graziani,
Right.
we talked to him about this. Ben, how many hours did he say he had to put in the field per snake he found? Was it like 400 hours of looking to find one Burmese
It was a
python?
lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're
Dang it.
definitely not easy. Now, okay, here's a question, guys. So you guys are going to go down there. You're going to maybe find a Burmese python. What are you going to do after you find it? Like, as a reptile
Smuggle it
lover,
out of the
what's your
country.
plan?
Take a picture.
Yep.
Are you going to re-release? Are you going to make a phone call? Are you going to do the deed yourself? Like, where do you stand on that? Like, because I'm really there too. Like, I don't know what I'd do if I found a Burmese python in the wild. Like, I don't want to be, I don't know what the word is, irresponsible, but I don't know what I'd do because I wouldn't want to kill it. But do I make a phone call?
Legally, I believe you have to report it or turn it in.
Yeah.
If you
Which
catch
makes
it.
If you catch it, but if you see
Right.
it, you still just let them know you had a sighting.
Right.
So are we allowed to even talk about this?
Oh,
Is
so no
this-
picture.
Is this touchy?
No. If we post pictures and if we take pictures, all we gotta do is say it escaped and it bit one of us and ran off. But if we kept it, let's say we bag it or put it in a cup, legally now we own that snake. You cannot release it.
Okay, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to go through that, you're probably not going to re-release it anyways. So what are you guys going to do when you find a berm?
Take pictures, take selfies.
Selfies.
That it?
Yep.
I didn't know
Hey,
there was
do me a
regulation
favor.
on that, so I hadn't thought about it.
There's regulation on everything, buddy. Hey, stand by. I'm going to step out and step back in. This
Yeah.
pause screen is killing me because you guys are not talking. I think you're really uncomfortable right now. I got to see your facial expression, so I'll be back in a moment.
I'm
All
pausing.
right, guys.
too.
Seriously, we got to think of something else to get
How am I
into that's
looking,
like
guys?
totally off topic, so that when he comes back in, he's like, "The crap." Should we bring snakes to the
I'm totally
ballet?
confused.
Yeah. Should we bring snakes to the ballet or do like a Broadway snake show? Like, can we get somebody to start writing one of those Broadway snake shows?
That would definitely,
That'd be
bring more.
phenomenal education.
Damn, right after Dave left, I'm frozen too. Let me see. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Damn it.
So
Yeah, you're good on our end.
yeah, so snakes on Broadway. Keep going with that.
Phenomenal
Yeah,
way
I
to
think
get.
that's. I feel like with the play emotion already, I feel like that's just really going to put it on that really needing. The screenwriting, with it already being in the step that it's in, I think that's going to be the main factor.
Maybe get Lin-Manuel Miranda to do it. The Hamilton guy.
I say we
I
go ahead
think-
and get the Cougars
I
in
think, yeah,
South Park.
perfect. He'd be perfect.
Oh yeah, that's a better idea.
Yeah, those guys do a phenomenal job. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not into any of that stuff, but I'll still go see their stuff.
Oh yeah. Book of Mormon. Yep.
Oh, yeah. What a great time. And I did not see that coming.
You okay, Bob?
So, let's jump around. I want to hear how the fuck the three of you guys got together. Like, I'm not going to say you guys are like an odd couple or anything like that, but different backgrounds. Some are a little newer than others. Tell me about that, guys.
I'm just gonna go and say probably Facebook.
Okay. So who stalked who? Like, what started this?
Or
Like, you guys just come together?
Well, maybe Repticon or Facebook via Repticon. How about that? Does that sound better?
That sounds fucking awful. You got another answer?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, but Matt, how did we first meet? Was it on Facebook or was it at Repticon?
Facebook initiated the familiarity, and then at Repticon, we're like, "Hey, you're that dude." And then like-minded individuals always link up. Whether Frank's in a band and plays drums, so like I don't know, musical talented people may link up, but just we all have the same mindset, the same energy, the same goals. taking like, I'd say me and Frank are kind of different people in a sense, but we rode down to Daytona together and just a phenomenal trip, just talking the whole time, having a blast. So anyways, I think like-minded individuals like me and you, Dave, have kind of met one another. We just kind of gravitate towards one another. And that's kind of, I think, how it started.
Okay.
Dave, can you see who just hopped
Hooker
on?
in the house.
I can't see anything. I've been frozen again. The technology is just not here, guys. I'm
The
getting out and
audio
come back.
sounds
If you
terrible.
tell me I can look at Chad right now, I got to be here. Hold on.
Chad's in the house.
What do we got Bob. Who else do we got? I can't see the pictures very well. Everybody's like a half an inch.
Welcome to my life.
Holy smokes. We got the tuxedo jumper on. Nice.
Matt,
Bob's got it on too.
Yeah.
Man, I feel left out. I'm an XL. If you guys order more.
XL. You're gonna want like a medium or a large.
You'll have to get assistance to take it off, though.
Yeah, I'm a large, and this is a small.
No way.
Yeah, this is a small. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's tight, but it's like.
Oh, so hey Chad, it's nice to see you, buddy. How's it going over there?
Hey, bud. Long time no see. I'm at work, man. I had to run into the gym. I'm in the gym right now. It's the only privacy I could find. There's like 12 people here.
All right. What are the chances
Getting
taking this
jacked.
to the shower?
Chances of what?
Taking this to the shower, buddy.
Probably pretty low.
Oh, that's disappointing.
best
to
I can
listen
do.
to, but-
I'm sitting on a yoga ball.
Oh, nice. Group conversations, everyone throwing their 2 cents is great. You guys can be really awkward if you're just not feeling it at any point during Matt talking. You can just leave. Don't even say goodbye. Like, make it really weird.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bounce at any moment.
At one point, it's going to literally just be Matt and Ben, and the rest of us are going to be gone. Ben's got to hang out to the end because he has no choice. And Matt, you're the guest. You
Let's
can't
just
leave.
do that now. Let's all just leave.
Guys, you all want to leave? Oh, Bob, you don't have to leave yet. Oh, okay, Bob. Bob fully committed. Hey, Ben, if Bob tries to get back in, don't let him back in. Leave him hanging for at least a minute.
Okay.
So obviously we're kind of bouncing around a little bit. We were kind of talking Borneos a little bit. I want to talk a little Python stuff some more. Chad's got a good understanding of Python stuff, and I know you with your Sabu's up there. I'm sure you'll have a good 2 cents. Am I right or am I wrong? There we go. Where did we leave off, Matt? Mid-conversation, Bob showed up.
I know. So we were talking. Oh, Matt hopped off.
Pet left, motherfucker.
I think his Wi-Fi is. I think he's having a.
Well, he's at a hotel. It's going to be about 9:30. I'm sure everyone's jerking off right now. I bet you his internet's running slow.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
Jerking off.
it kicked me off. It feels great right now. I'm flowing.
So we were talking bloods, and I think so. If I could ask a question that would maybe drive the direction, what do you think, or how can we as a community help get people over the fear of bloods? Because bloods have two things that going against them. One, their snout,
Right.
or their nose looks very vicious compared to like other snakes. So there's a fear, like a natural fear. They look like an angry animal, and then there's a perception. I think this comes with because a lot of people kept them a little too warm, but there's a perception that they're very big biters and they're nasty. So how as a community do we, and how do you, for Borneos and that style of python, bloods, Borneos, how do you think we should go about getting people over that?
That's a good question, man. I think really ultimately it's just going to be exposure. The Borneos, I have Sumatrans. Frank probably has a Sumatran within reaching distance. They're very laid back, chilled animals. So I think if we just, I don't know, maybe get more. All right. So with the short tails, there seems to be a little appreciation of them, but they don't really get put out there as much as, like, say, a big retic or a really cool piebald python. So I think if like somebody was to really highlight them and showcase them, people would see, oh, they're not so bad. Because that's what you always get is people saying, oh, I always heard they were mean, or how's their attitude. I put up a couple videos. I had a video on my Instagram where, like, I just went through and grabbed, like, I had them stacked in tubs. So I was like, look at this one. Look at this one. You can see that they're just chilling, laid back. So maybe if we did more of that. But I don't know. Frank, grab yours.
Yeah, right there.
Is there a delay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I hear heavy breathing.
You'll
might
get
be-
to see, like, so he's got a Sumatran, which is gonna be, yeah, look, that snake's not mean, not angry. The face, I guess, does look like that, but he's just doing what snakes do.
Just for the record, if that's
And that's how all mine are.
we editing it out?
What's that?
I said, if that snake pulls a Jay Brewer right now, are we going to edit it out?
I thought we weren't about, stirring the pot.
That's not stirring the pot.
That's not true.
Come
But
on.
the catch
stirring the pot.
is, it's not gonna pull a Jay Brewer.
Right.
Yeah.
The
We're
only
okay. We'll have our niches.
I've ever done anything is like as like a feeding response. That's the only time I've ever gotten struck at by these guys.
Okay. Well, and again, too, like what Ben said, a big thing too is a lot of people were basing that attitude on ones that were literally pulled out of the wild. Those early bloods were fucking nasty.
Yep.
Generations and generations of breeding them, it's just not the case anymore. The black Sumatrans used to scare the fuck out of me because when I first started looking at them in like 2005, I'd get bit nonstop. I bought a pair in 2014 as babies, and they were fucking wonderful. Loved everything about them. So,
Right.
I don't know. Here's the thing. You can't make somebody like a species, but a lot of times, I hate to say it, it's usually mutation driven. When people see like a possibility there, when I hate to say it, some people see a financial gain. I've even been talking to friends of ours lately that are getting into new species. They're saying things like, I didn't even know these things sold for $5,000. And now they're buying a bunch of them. Like, sometimes there is that side of it. Again, not taking anything away from the passion of wanting to work with a species. But again, if you're running it as a business, which some of us do, you have to look at, the financial gain, or if they can support themselves, I guess you could say, if that doesn't sound too cruel. I don't know. Do I have to tiptoe on this conversation?
Well, I think I remember Pro Exotic when they were still around, and they were pretty blood python heavy for a while, and that's what they were driving. They were driving that generations of captive breeding these things makes them a little bit tamer, and they were also pushing all the different color mutations. They had a couple of their own things that they were putting out there too. But I remember going down to Daytona and seeing like the brand new T negative albinos they had that were thousands of dollars and things like that. And of course the T negatives they had were crazy because they were probably not that far removed from the wild at that point. But most of the other stuff they had was pretty laid back, pretty chill. And I just remember Robin Markland, he did like an interview for Reptiles magazine or something like that at one point. And he was just going on about how these are like the next, ball python type of thing, and as far as like their docile nature, all that type of stuff. And so I can see how the mutation thing would drive that, because that's what they were pushing with it as well. Just putting all the different paint jobs out there and everything.
That is definitely a big push for ball pythons. I'm not convinced the species would be as popular as it was if it wasn't for all the mutations that popped up. The same reason why people worked with corn snakes and leopard geckos before they got into ball pythons. There was an endless amount of possibilities.
Yeah.
I would love to see bloods a little more mainstream, because when a species goes more mainstream, things happen that you wouldn't see if there was only a few selective guys working with it.
Yes.
New mutations that might pop out, ideas to take projects in directions that some people might not be thinking about. New people to a species is awesome, because again, like Matt's talking about, focusing more on berms that are het for green, het for albino, things like that. You're seeing small little changes in the pattern. You're seeing changes in the overall color of the animal, and he's going that direction. He's not just making hets to make visuals. He likes what the hets do to the overall appearance of the animal. If there wasn't a Matt, no one else might be doing that right now. So again, I wish more people were working with bloods, because we would start seeing more unique stuff happening, because that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And ball pythons are a great example of it. A lot of species are a good example of that. We bring up skinks all the time. Skinks jumped ahead 10 years, 20 years in the last 3, because so many new people doing pairings they wouldn't normally do and making very unique animals, and it completely changed the entire community. I hope bloods get a little more popular. Like I said, I've been obsessing over Tracy's stuff for years and a lot of other people's stuff. I don't know if the species ever catches on though. Maybe the pied. What's going on with that pied, man? Matt probably knows a little bit about that.
I saw a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pied blood.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, there's a pied blood.
Yeah.
You've never seen the pied blood?
Enlighten
Ben,
me. No.
I
okay.
thought I sent you a picture of it.
So not only is there pied bloods, but
maybe
people
you
are
did.
actually producing pied bloods now.
Oh, they're
The original import was years ago, but there are babies now.
Where are they producing them?
I don't remember the breeder, but I do know Pete Call years ago told me that if we wanted a pair of hets, he could arrange it for us for the bloods. We never made a move on it. We were really intrigued, but we just didn't make a move. Ben, are you stalking over there? Or are you looking at porn again? Oh, he's looking at porn if he can't hear me.
That explains it.
I'm looking for the pied blood picture. I'm having trouble finding it.
I think that's the key to any exposure is a pied. In any species, you pull out a pied, it's just going to take off.
That's the truth. Pied is the most attractive mutation in every species I've seen. The blood red, pied-sided corn snakes are amazing. If the pied boa ever goes mainstream, that's going to be a big deal for the boa community. And again, the blood, people are already starting to produce pied bloods. Now you think of all those reds and you think of all the golden eye stuff and all the really bad batik. Could you imagine a batik pied? How the fuck did we lose Ben? He's the one who hosts the show.
Yeah.
I think he's going to make it on the air now without him here, but
there he is.
I'm not gone. I just had to shut off my camera. You gone, pied blood?
Yeah, I'm really surprised how hard it is to find this. I mean, I'm sure I got one on my phone. We're gonna have to edit this in later, but yeah, there is a pied blood.
I think I saw one in one of those blood python Facebook groups.
Oh, I'm sure. The original picture, was it on like a wooden crate?
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, there were baby pictures posted either this past season or maybe those 2019 babies were shown off.
Okay.
If that original import was, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. I really thought you knew your shit. I didn't think you didn't know there was a pied blood.
I know. I do think I recall Frank sending me pictures. Any cool short tail, I can count on Frank to keep me in the loop. But yeah, I maybe had forgot about it.
That's okay.
That's
cool,
okay, though.
bud.
Yeah, I appreciate
Can't
it.
know it all.
Pass. I'm Borneos.
Try to help him out as best.
I'm not Bronger's I'm Brighton Steiny.
Well, so okay, Matt, how into Borneos are you? Like, what's your collection looking like for that, and what are you doing with it?
So honestly, I don't have a bunch. But I learned a valuable lesson. My first year I produced them. They need size, and they can get size. They get pretty big. It's kind of cool to see. They're massive. But I bred 2 girls that were almost 4, and they weren't big, but they had some good size. But anyways, bad clutch. Only got a couple babies. The females did not rebound very well. So I have not bred them for 2 years. I'm going to get them big, chunky, thick, really, really healthy animals before I even mess with them again. I kind of pulled that, well, everybody says, they need to be this big, but what would really happen? And it was hard on the girls. So, but I have a few, I dabble. I have some Philly Herp stuff, but I only have 2, 3. And I won't get any more because I don't want to follow Matt. Matt's so far ahead. If I just get his stuff, I'll just make what he's making. I want to grab something that's completely random, that nobody, knows of this person, and then just see what pops out and then kind of go from there. It's kind of my strategy. I've got one for Blakey 2-inch. You mentioned him earlier. And then I've got some from Ryan Rumbley. So I just kind of like grabbing from random people, put them together and see what pops out. And that's what's kind of cool about the Borneos, because the ones that I produced, the clutch, none of them looked similar. None of them looked like the parents. I don't even know what happened. So I think that's what's really cool about it. Like you said, when things start getting mainstream, more people get involved, you never know what's going to pop out. So a very ambiguous answer that I just gave you. But so I'm not doing a ton with them. I'm just trying to get them big and fat.
Okay. Well, I guess, to like, do you have a direction you're hoping to take? Are you going to spill the beans? Like you're working on some kind of granite project that you're really excited? Because I know you have the granites, right? Oh.
I do have a granite. That's what came from Blake. But so no, I like the blues. I think blues is what's really gonna make, because when you see a blue, they fire up a lot too. When you see a blue that's looking real blue, it really grabs your attention. So if we're talking about getting more attention to Borneos, I think blue is going to be the way to do it. I am not going the oscillate way where they reduce the pattern. I want more pattern and more contrast. But again, I think I did an ultra to a super stripe. And then I think I might have put the blue in there at one point. But anyways, the babies look nothing like either the parents. So I think that's going to be my strategy, is no strategy. This animal, I don't see anything similar. Throw them together. Let's see what pops out. And the path will reveal itself instead of me deciding it.
Too, with the Borneos. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, okay. I remember Frank sending me that.
Frank, I think he's lying to you.
No, I remember.
It's okay, though.
I don't know how you could forget a thing like that. Well, really it's fascinating about Borneos, and I know we're going to get into this a lot with Matt when we have him on. Kind of like what you're saying, you're mixing certain things together, but you're not getting the results you'd assume you'd get while putting them together. And, from the outside looking in on the Borneos over the years, I've seen you guys make your granites as nice as possible, and I've seen the ocelots look even better, and I've seen some of the cool super stripe stuff and the blues. But I'm not sure I've ever seen like a super stripe blue. I've never seen granite worked into that project. Like, do they just not mingle well when it comes to it, or what's going on there? Like, is there anybody really doing?
So I know I've seen, and I can't remember who has it, but a really nice super stripe blue. I've only seen one. And then I think people are starting to get some of the blue into the granite. But I just think it's one of those things where there's not enough people into it where it's been able to get as deep as it can. Because like I said, I really feel like there's not a ton of people doing the Borneos. So once, there's just not that influx of people breeding a ton of animals. So you haven't got that depth yet, but I think it's headed there.
Do you feel that the people in the Borneo community have spent more time perfecting and making what they have better by not worrying about crossing it out or having a 4 or 5 gene animal?
That's exactly what I think. Yeah, because if you look at like Philly Herps, he's got the marble and he's got the oscillate, and he's getting them patternless and more reduced, the white walls, and so that's what he's been doing. And he may be doing other stuff that I don't know about, but that's why I talked about Rob Christian earlier. He looks like, I just see him doing some other stuff. There's another guy, Dan Mango, but they're doing stuff and it looks like new things are revealing themselves. And that could just be, what I'm seeing, because I have, like I said, a stay in my lane. Maybe I'm not seeing other things going on, but yes, that's what I think it would be. Like, you got your little niche and you run that lane, whereas I'm kind of like, well, let's see what happens. I don't want too much Philly Herp stuff, even though it's like the best, so it'll make my animals better. I want to see if I can go a different route than Matt, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And that's the whole point of what I brought up before. The more new people get into that species is going to make people go directions that people aren't going to take it. Maybe with the right person in Borneos, not those people that are in and out are wrong, but, someone's going to do the right cross, and eventually you're going to start seeing a really, I don't know if we can get any more extreme with these marbles right now. I know I was calling them granites for it, but the marble project really is peaking right now. Like, what I'm seeing right now is better than I thought they could have taken that project.
Stupid. Right.
The ones back in the day were not subtle, but it didn't creep all the way up the back like it is right now. So I
It
really
just
love what he
overwraps
did.
it.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable. So what's going on, Ben? Would you be nice enough to find this T negative Borneo, because that's actually an animal I've never seen.
Oh, the sunset.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Snakes
Yeah,
at
there's a
Sunset has it?
sunset and a mocha.
Yeah,
Oh.
No, they call it sunset.
right.
And there's a sunset. Yeah, there's a sunset and a mocha. I think there's two different lines.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And you'll see it, and it's so going back to what me and Rob were talking about that time, you'll see it's kind of, in a sense, kind of muted, but it hasn't been bred into these high contrast animals that people have produced, or like take the marble and then put T positive into it. There you go.
I mean, I'm sure Marble's going to complement that really well. See, the only thing with Borneo is not that it's a negative, but like, you know, when I do albino projects, especially in boa constrictors, I'm always trying to do more line bright colors into it to just bring out as many salmon tones, pink tones, reds if possible. What, in your opinion, with that animal, like, what do you think the Ghost Project's going to do to that when you get a really nice high expression blue in there?
I couldn't even imagine. I mean, that would be pretty phenomenal. Or like, who's I can't remember the guy's name, but he made, is it Dennis McNamara? He made some like some almost black Borneos. So you get that real dark in there with it, and just real high contrast, the darks and the lights. I think that'll really bring out pinks and these colors you're talking about. Because this animal, there's not a ton of them out there. I would say this animal's not far removed from the wild. So it hasn't been able to be worked into those line bred high contrast animals. I don't know what blue would do to it. What do you think?
I mean, personally, I don't have the fucking clue. That's why I asked you. I mean, I can guess. But no, okay, so how many of these are, like, have these been produced in captivity yet? Or was there a group that kind of popped up at a farm and there's a few in the country because of it?
So my understanding is last year might have been the first year they were produced. Maybe the year before. Frank, do you know? Because they were at Daytona last year or 2 years ago.
I remember Michael Cole posting pictures of them hatching.
Okay, wow.
Like 2 years ago?
Like,
3?
So, again, I pay a lot of attention to a lot of different communities, and Borneos have always been one of it. I had no idea this animal even existed. Like, somehow this slipped through the cracks.
That's how new it is.
Yeah.
And did you say there's also a T negative for these guys, or just T positive?
I
Just
thought that was
2 lines of T negative, 2 lines of T positive. Sorry.
Okay, 2 uncompatible or just brought in at different times?
I don't know. But I know maybe incompatible because somebody has double het Mocha Sunset. I can't remember who it is. But that doesn't mean I guess that would mean they're not compatible. Yeah, so not compatible.
Not compatible? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, there's a boa constrictors. So there's the Costa Rican T positives, and then you got your Central American T positives. A breeder in Europe put those 2 animals together, and I'm not sure if you're aware how either of those look, but they put these 2 T positive forms together, proved they were not compatible, and when they bred the double heads together to make a visual, the baby looked like a T negative albino. Like, it canceled out not everything, but it canceled out so much about each other, it legitimately looks like a T negative albino now. So I'd be really curious on these 2 lineages of T positive,
Right.
what the color transformation would be, if it's going to lighten up and take you to that T negative level like what happened in boas, or I'm not sure who's going to win the battle because I don't know what the other line looks like. Is the other line more colorful than this line, or is it about the same?
I feel like it's pretty close to the same.
This is Michael Cole. I pictured.
What
Okay.
we're looking at.
Yeah. Looks a little more muted, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Frank, how heavy are you into bloods right now? Bloods and Borneos.
I just have the 2 Sumatrans. That's it.
Okay, which I've always appreciated the Sumatrans. Everybody likes a dark mutation, or not a dark mutation, but a dark black animal when it comes to pythons.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have those. I mean, I got some other random ones too, but those are the only short tails that I have right now, or
Okay.
blood type.
And the blacks, the Sumatrans get a ton of attention. So just like you said, like that black snake that like looks wet, that really just grabs people's attention. So we talked about exposure and how do we get more people into this. I think a really nice Sumatran and showcasing those will get people into the short tails, because I got into the short tails from the Borneos, but I actually have some Sumatrans too, because once I saw what those are, then I saw what the Sumatrans are and the chrome heads and the pumpkin heads and all that.
I mean, what the black ones is, even though like when they're, even when they get in the shed, they look hypo. It's like a really cool, some snakes are dull, they get, whenever they go in the shed, but like the Sumatrans, at least mine, they look like it looks like a hypo version of it. They look almost like lavender.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of. It's like, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead, bud.
I was just saying, it's even like a snake. Like you always fret about taking snakes to the shows that are in shed, because they obviously don't look as pretty at that point. But even these, even if they were in shed and like on your display, someone would probably look at that and be like, "Wow, that's," it's kind of a neat little thing about them that I like. I don't know. It's dumb, but whatever.
No, you're right. I've seen it. You're right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I really appreciated mine when they were in shed. Like I said, it's a different color tone. They actually look good in shed, which is a rarity, like you said, in reptiles.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, I don't know if we're going to come up with anything that's going to make bloods more popular in this conversation. Because again, the reality is, this is a conversation that's been going on since the early 2000s, and not to say they haven't become more popular, because clearly they are more popular. It's really hard. Like, how do you gauge popularity? Ball python level at this point? Like, boa level maybe? Like, what's the level of popularity? I don't know if this
especially when you get into like the nuances. I was just gonna say, you get into the nuances. There's like a culture within that species. Like, it's like the corn snakes have it's this high level. Bull snakes have the Pitophois have their level. So within each nuance, there's like this high level of excitement and enjoyment. So I don't know how you put it on a level, because they may say, well, if you step into the bull snake world, you'll see how much people love them. Does that make sense? So may not be as broad, but within that nuance, people are really fired up about them.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're working with this species and you're selling out every year, it's definitely popular enough. If you can, if the day comes where you're not producing enough to supply your customer base, there's clearly room to expand. I love that you brought up bull snakes. Bull snakes and gopher snakes, I love all the mutations. That's another big colubrid that I'm surprised is not more popular. But the babies freak people out. I always stress that the biggest part about this market as a whole is the pet market. Don't get me wrong, us breeders are always spending big money with each other, but it's the pet money that supports the hobby. And when you got a little bull snake in a cup and that little fucker's rattling his tail and raising up, it's very difficult to sell an animal. Oh, you can say this, some Honduran milk snake babies. They are just fucking assholes. And they all calm down and great species, but I think that's another thing that kind of fits in with the blood thing is some people are just a little intimidated by those babies, and some babies can start out a little nippier than others.
Yeah. I think there's that, and there's also just when you look at like the ball python thing compared to a blood python. Blood pythons, they're a heavier bodied snake. They get a little bit bigger. And a ball python compared to a blood, it's more manageable for most people. And I think that's something you have to think about as well. Like, you look at the manageability of the size, you look at the availability, you look at how intimidating they are, like you were saying, as babies. And there's all those different things that kind of factor in together with bloods, and really with any species for that.
Yeah, and I remember seeing my first Sumatran ever at a show, and I believe it was the Hamburg show. And man, that little fucker was just eyeballing me. You could see its eyes shifting. Like, the Sumatrans back then, again, were a little more uppity compared to nowadays. But yeah, that little fucker kind of scared me a little bit. I figured if I was going to pick him up, he was going to bite me every chance he got.
Yeah. That's about every single blood or short tail I'd ever seen in the show for the first time. They were all like that. But most of them were imports too, like in the early days. But
yeah, and the imports again were always pricks. Like I said, it's really hard to ever have the conversation of what's going to be the next ball python because nothing will ever be the next ball python.
yeah.
The ball python is going to be the next ball python in 20 years, just for the fact that we're always going to be reinventing what we can do with that species when it comes to patterns and colors.
Yeah.
You can't compete with that. It's never going to hit a wall. There's always going to be a new direction to take it. But again, the nice thing about ball pythons is it does draw a lot of people into the hobby. And where somebody will come in and buy a ball python, they might decide they're more passionate about blood pythons and suddenly go that direction.
Yeah.
That's really one of the most heartbreaking things about the way the hobby's going right now, and the fact that, government control and everything else with it is we're going to lose people that we were maybe going to get someday. Yeah. There was going to be a new mind, a new person was going to come in and pick a species that, whatever it should happen to be, and they were possibly going to do great things with it, and we may never see that person.
Yeah.
That's like you guys going back and educating, getting more people into this, informing people like how important that is. I don't know if that's ever truly going to be enough. I really hate to say it. I think when everything's said and done, we're just going to have to roll with the punches on what the government says we can and cannot do, because I don't think anybody in a pet industry will ever be able to beat government. I think, like we said in the end, I think cat breeding is going to be regulated. I think breeding a rat in your house will probably get regulated someday. I don't know if there's, not to be negative, guys, but the fight will be lost eventually. It doesn't mean this goes away, but just like Europe has restrictions, size of your cage, a bunch of stuff like that. We talk about Australia. You have to have a license, a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, a level 4 to work with different species. You start out with level 1, you're there for 3, 4, 5 years before you can move to level 2. And then after level 2, you can jump to level 4. I think big constrictors might be level 3, and then venomous is level 4. But once you get past the first two, like, I hate to say it, if the give in the hobby was to do something along that lines, I'm sure there'll be a little pushback, and I'm sure breeders already doing certain things might be able to get grandfathered in. But the reality is this has been a hobby that has never really been regulated, where other countries have been regulating this for years. So I don't know what to expect what's going to happen, and I don't want to give up any freedoms, but I do think as a whole, the community should expect that we're going to have to give up something, or changes will have to be made for us to keep it going the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to talk about bull snakes again. Go ahead, Frank.
No, I was agreeing with you. I had nothing to say at that point. But yeah, I was agreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah.
That's probably going to give to keep what we have, unfortunately.
Yeah, and maybe that's not going to be the case. It just feels like that could be coming. But again, it's not like we're giving up rights. If regulations are put in place to make us take better care of our animals or make us more responsible, I don't think that's a bad thing. We're not always going to look at it that way, but I don't think it's a negative.
I agree.
Oh, sorry, guys, that was pretty long-winded, and it's paused right now. So if somebody raised their hand, I didn't see it. Well, let's go back to Matt, because he's,
hey,
the main guy. Yeah, good for Matt. Frank,
thanks for hanging out, Frank.
Did Frank dump on us?
No, I'm here. I have to go to bed. I have to get up at 4 a.m. So
Frank, if you want to step out, it was a pleasure having you, bud, and we'd love to have you back on in the future where we could just talk about Frank.
Whatever you want to do.
Right. I'll give you a heads up. We'll do this in the future for sure, bud.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for making your way out,
Frank.
man.
Thanks. See you, Matt.
Thanks,
I'll see you soon, Matt.
See, we got to say goodbye to him.
Yeah, well, Frank's polite.
Yeah.
Chad was all like,
Frank is so polite.
Yeah. Large group settings are very difficult in a podcast because, like you said, you have delays. It makes people not want to talk over other people. Everyone's always pausing.
Yep.
Group settings are very difficult.
Yeah, for this, and that's a phenomenal group of guys. So it'd be nice to have that But you're right. Like with the delays and stuff, it makes it challenging unless we had like a very structured plan.
In person at a show in a group setting is probably the only way to really do it, because I do think you
Yep.
cut it up a little bit more. I don't think this has always been the best platform when you put 20 people in a room and try to make it work. Like I said, I think
Right.
the direction is difficult. Plus, to have 6 people all having the same conversation when 3 of them don't know what the fuck you're talking about, it's kind of hard to go anywhere.
Right.
But hey, Ben, you got a little sugar for us, bud? A little something for Matt, or you want me to keep on talking to him?
No, I mean, we could do whatever you want.
Well, I want to ask Ben a question. Do you guys own any blood pythons?
Us?
Yeah.
We don't have any at the moment. We actually have been talking about it a little bit. We're really I do like them, and I'd like to keep them. It's at a space issue point right now where we're going to have to build a building. And so we've been like kind of kicking that can down the road a little bit. And it's probably going to be this year, maybe next year. This year, early next year.
What is your draw? Why do you guys even want to get into them?
Into bloods?
Yeah.
Because they look awesome. They don't get too big. You could, if you feed them right, it's not a crazy expensive animal to keep.
Right.
They have a good personality, but if you keep them correctly and you handle them once in a while, they turn into a pretty good pet, and they look cool, you know.
Well, it's a real question, bud. Like, because I want to know why new people want to get into the species. Because Matt, even you're fairly new to the hobby, and you went that direction. Did you get in? Like, did someone push you that way, or is it because you're already working with the big constrictors? You thought bloods were a good idea?
Yeah. Honestly, it was Philly Herps, and that's kind of was the delay as well. So I stumbled on his, and I didn't know the difference between Borneos and bloods. And so I didn't go the blood route because I wanted a real red animal. And all my research was kind of like, you don't know how red it's going to be, you know, because they redden as they age. You can look at the parents. So it kind of deterred me because I didn't want one that wasn't exactly what I wanted. Then I stumbled onto the Borneos with Philly Herps, and I love the stripes. And I'm just a stripe fanatic in anything. So then I just started digging in a little more and found out that's a different little species. And then how I really got it is this girl Jade. She had one from Matt, and she's super selective in everything she gets. She only gets the best of the best. She has a couple of my berms, if that says anything. Just kidding. But anyways, she had to kind of make some adjustments in her collection, and I had an opportunity to pick up one at a fairly inexpensive price. So I said, all right, cool. Let me get one of these and see if I enjoy keeping it. Let me just get one. I know it's good, and it was a super stripe, phenomenal. And so I got it, and it was just really pleasant to keep. It's cool to interact with, easy to take care of, inexpensive to feed. Just had a different look. And so that's when I said, all right, let me grab another one. So really just getting one to see if I liked that animal is kind of how I got into it. But seeing Matt's stuff is what got me into the Borneos. They just have that look. There's the and it really was the stripes.
His Ocelot project, the super stripe and stripy animals he has, that really was my draw. I just thought they're really special animals. I was fortunate enough to see them in person a bunch. It was hard not to fall in love with the species personally. And, you know, kind of like you guys, you know, like Matt's saying, you know, just the exposure. And with social media nowadays, the reality is, if there was that one guy who was going to really take the reins and really start making these a little more mainstream, he could do that through social media. But, you know, that community, again, being a niche community, a lot more old school guys, I don't know if anybody really wants to take the initiative on that. Like, I think it's a bunch of guys that have been doing it for a while. They've done very well. They love the guys that are around them. And I think they're very content on where that community is at the moment. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just, I don't know who the blood guy would be to really make bloods a mainstream product on Facebook or on YouTube. Like, I couldn't even guess who that guy is going to be.
Right. Me neither.
So again, Matt, just because I like talking about all the crazy laws and stuff, where do you see your collection going? Like, are you always just going to keep on going with what you're doing and not worry about the outside, which we talked about before? Or, you brought up bull snakes. Like, what's going to stop you from moving another species right now? Space, time, like, what do you think in the end is one thing for you?
This is just something that I approach everything in life with, whether it's snakes or whatever. I let that path reveal itself. I think when you get real caught up in the next move, you're kind of robbing yourself of enjoying the moment and really discovering what you like. Because all we really have, we can't have the past, it's gone. And we don't know the future because so many things could change. So all we really have in life is right now. And so I just really try to pour myself into that. I don't know where my collection is going to go, but I do know it will kind of be determined for me, right? So it's not necessarily like somebody's going to tell me what to do, but my interests may change. A work schedule may prevent me from having the bigger snakes or shipping or something like that, right? So when you get so wrapped up in the next move, sometimes I think you can take away, at least for my mindset and how I like to approach things. I've always loved the bull snakes. I feel like you get 3 snakes in one because they get different colors. So kind of the same thing with the Borneos. I really was like, all right, just studied them and what do I like, what don't I like? And I found some, I was like, I got to get Xanthic, whatever I get. And I found a pair that had everything I wanted. So I said, let me get them and see if I enjoy them. Because you can always get 2, it's no big deal. And fell in love with them. A big snake, right? That significant size, which is something that I enjoy. Not trying to compensate for anything, but I just enjoy a larger snake. So you have the colubrid. I also took it kind of like what you're talking about from like a marketing standpoint. If somebody says, hey, I don't want a ball python. I don't want a king snake. What's something low maintenance, easy to take care of, but still has a little bit of oomph to it. I felt like a bull snake would be a great fit. So it might be easy to sell because it doesn't need heat. They eat anything. And you're still going to get this snake that's got some significant size and a lot of variety, like the ball pythons with the morphs and all the localities and stuff. So that's kind of how I ended up there. And so going back to your question, where's it going to go? I don't know. I have some bull snakes. I have some Borneos. I have some Sumatrans. I have lots of Retics. So if a law gets passed, I'm not so hung up on Retics. I mean, I would be tore up, and I think they have a lot of value just as a keeper. But if I'll just evolve, what's the next move? I got some Surnoms. I have some Bolivians. So it just, the path will reveal itself. Just keep enjoying it, having fun, being smart with it. And I think that's what will keep you in long term and give you some longevity. So another ambiguous answer. I don't know. I'm just glad to be here.
Well, again, we're glad to have you, man. Like I said, what you guys do down in the Derby community is huge. Again, there's not a lot of people. Well, there's a lot of people doing a lot right now, but Bob's always been a very charitable guy. He's always had really great guys around him that also want to be charitable, and I really enjoyed your guys' auction. I thought it was awesome. It is my draw to go back down just for the pure entertainment factor, watching you guys do what you do up there. But no, like I said, these questions are a little more business sided. Like you said, this is a hobby for you, something you're really passionate about. And unfortunately for guys like me, when you have as many as we do, sometimes it's really to not always be thinking about the business end of things.
Right.
I still love everything about this, what we do. I love picking up shit with my bare hands. I love looking at the animals. I love sharing them with people. I don't want this ever not to be my day job. I love this day job. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be a full-time reptile person. Like, I think working with this is amazing. And actually find something you can make a living at that you love is also amazing. So when I ask these questions, because, that's all I ever think about. Like, if I want to get into a species, I got to think about how much space it's going to take up. I got to think if it's going to pay for itself or if it's something that I'm doing just because I want it. And I do have my animals that I want, but those are animals I'm never going to breed. We all have our display animals. There has to be a balance in this hobby. You go full on for a living, it'll fuck you up after a little while. Like, it's too much stress, in my opinion.
But
That's
you
just me.
evolved into where you're at now, though, right?
Yeah, organically, kind of slowly got me.
Yeah,
It
and that
took a big
process is what's awesome.
Yeah, the coming up, I'm actually really happy with my coming up. Nothing was easy.
Mhm.
There was always failures, and I just kept on trying.
Yep.
I never thought I'd want to be part of a huge collection. Like, I remember back in the day going to Barczyk's house and walking in that warehouse. I was like, I would do anything to manage this. Like, this is my dream. Just because you're surrounded by animals all day in different species, and there's always something giving birth, and there's just always something exciting going on, even feeding day. Not to say I hate what I do. I love what I do. That's why I show up late to this podcast, because I work to the very last minute before I have to run over here to do this with you guys. Trying to think, I'm losing my fucking train of thought on this because I'm going all over the place. I never thought I'd be part of something big, and I do have days where, there's a little stress involved, but I wouldn't change a thing right now. But,
Yep.
Ben passing away was really, I've always had a very manageable size collection. Having to go from manageable to Ben level, like overnight, very difficult mentally for a lot of reasons. And that's where my
Right.
mental part comes into this. More responsibilities that depend on you every day. The situation as a whole, walking into it,
Right.
was going to be easy. So my stress was based on going from where I built organically. I went from building organically and slowly doing what I wanted to do to being a part of something great that was somebody else's dream that I had to take over and turn into my own dream. I
Right.
joke around and say I'm not a ball python guy. I'm a ball python guy, but I'm also a corn snake guy. I'm a hognose guy. I'm everything. I'm obsessed with every reptile.
Right.
If I had unlimited funds, I would be fucked. Like it would be a house full of animals. But no, like I said, I this is now the day podcast. You guys might be raising your hands. I can't even hear anything anymore.
I'm
Like I
digging it.
said, asking questions based on building businesses because I do enjoy the building part of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those conversations, even if it's a living animal. Now, if you're one of those guys getting in to build a business, neglect your animals, which a lot of you guys have done in the past, fuck those guys. But I guess I don't really feel ashamed of talking about projects in a certain way in a business manner when it comes to this because it's just part of everything we do.
Right. You have to, because the animals have to be caged. They have to be fed. There has to be revenue coming in. And if you are looking at it from a business standpoint, you will protect that asset. So talking monetarily, I think sometimes people get, a bad vibe from it, but I have to think monetarily. And if monetary is something important to me, I'm going to take care of my animals that produce the monetary value, right? So you're going to take better care of your animals if you are in it for the money, because you have to have the animals. So I think it's this full cycle. If you're in it for the money, you can't take shortcuts because you need to make this animal last and continue to breed, and you have to hold off a year because it's not fat enough, because you don't want to hurt, this animal, because you want money later in the future. So I think it all kind of flows together, and I think that business side of it is just as important. And I think if you're going to do it on any level, like my animals cost a lot to feed. So I have to have clutches. I have to sell animals. I have to get money for them because there's a lot of overhead. And then as much time as I spend cleaning and moving giant snakes and big old poops, I would like to have some benefit in it and be able to set money aside and grow that. So there's a business side to it as well. And you can't neglect that side of it. And operate at any type of level, which I don't have a ton of stuff, but it's expensive.
Oh yeah, everything about this is expensive because what happens when you make a little money? You either want to upgrade their cages to something better. You want to go pick up a new animal. Like it's always getting recycled back in, and it's not always these decisions. But honestly, like I like talking to fresh eyes in the hobby. Like I love Ben and Ryan. I like doing this with them because it's a different perspective on what I know in the hobby. Even you came in, you said 2015. Now you've always been hobby based because you've been passionate about the species or about reptiles in general, but you got into this because you saw it from the outside. You were very fascinated. You didn't come into this thinking you were going to quit your day job. You came in because you were really into it. You put some money into it out of your own pocket that could have went into anything else in your life, and you're building a collection. And I get excitement off of new people building collections. I don't have that luxury anymore. Like, I love the building process, and
Right.
I'm built. Like, it's over. I'm built. Like, I can always improve things, but it's over. Where you guys are at that pivotal moment in what you're going to do in this hobby, where you're building to what's you want to work with or what you might want to do. And like I mentioned before, it's hard to be great at everything. Yes, you might be able to get multiple species to produce every year, but are you truly getting the best out of the direction of the project when you're in 50 different species?
Right.
So that's really all that is. But hey Ben, how you doing up there, bud?
Oh, you know, just enjoying life.
I can't. It's been frozen since 2 hours and 11 minutes in. So I've actually been staring at this T positive Borneo for like an hour.
Oh, man. Actually, we've had that up for about an hour.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Well,
just
then,
joking.
kind of on the same page again. Well, Matt, I don't like going out on an episode where I do all the fucking talking, bud. Let's do. I want a little more Matt. Give me a little.
Okay.
Just tell me fucking anything, bud. Whether it was a certain animal along the way, like
A fun story.
Yeah, fun stories, man. Something about the hobby that really you feel makes your life better, man. Anything you want, dude, I'm up for it. I just want a little Matt before we call it a night.
Okay. Really, if I can really touch on this, because somebody, I was asked this on another deal before. So story, what I love about it, what I think is one of those, I don't know, niches, nuances of why this is awesome. So, number one is like, the main thing is the fellowship, right? I've spent almost 3 hours hanging out with you two. I would never have met you if we weren't doing snakes. I respect you, both y'all, a huge amount. Me and Kagan were talking to you at that last show about the lavender albinos and stuff, and walked away. And I was like, "Do you know who that is?" I said, "I'll sit and talk to him as long as he'll talk to me," because we were kind of having a conversation. Sometimes you get these shows and people will talk at you and they don't realize you're not interacting, and they'll just go and go. And I was like, man, that guy talked to us forever. But I told her, I was like, Dave, I was like, I'll listen to him as long as he'll allow me to talk to him. So just being in a room with that, and we had how many cameos, people hang out with us. That fellowship's really what I love about this. It's the Georgia community is pretty tight. We do Friendsgiving at Bob's, but I don't know if that's just a Georgia thing or just we're close proximity being in Georgia. Like I'm sure Missouri's a little more spread out, but we go to my buddy. I don't know if you know Dreamweaver, Michael Weaver. We go to his property and we camp and look for snakes and stuff. In the summer, we all get together. And just a lot, the closest people in my life I've met through the hobby. My ex-girlfriend I met through this. Like I say, Aaron Mathis, Black Diamond Herbs, is probably my best friend right now. Not that it's going to change, but it's somebody I met through this, and he lived in Virginia and he did berms. We couldn't ship berms, and his job came down here. I spend the weekend with his family. So that's what I love about this. You talk about stories. Yeah, I mean, we go to Weaver's property. I'm getting woke up at 5:30 in the morning. Me and Frank are sleeping in this camper, having the best night's sleep of my life. And I wake up and Luke Stimson standing over me like, "Hey man, we're gonna get on a 4-wheeler, go look for some snakes." And just the opportunity to do that, because growing up I always did it myself. Nobody ever did it with me. So just things like that is what I really love about it. Again, we're 3 hours into this thing of me just running my mouth about berms and what I like, and then picking your brain and getting this input. Ben's in the background pulling up every reference point that we need. Just when would we ever have an opportunity, us three, to spend time like that? Besides with this random enjoyment of cold-blooded creatures. So that's what I love about it. And then, today I'm in Charleston for work, and fairly professional job, whatever. And something came up about snakes with one of my managers, and I was like, hang on. And she's saying I shouldn't like snakes. I pulled up a video of this giant 17-foot snake I have. And she's like, is that you? what are you doing with that thing? It's going to kill you. And just being able to like blow people's minds that this, this guy has giant snakes. Like, that's your basement? Yeah. How many do you have? Like, I don't know. I stopped counting. And just, oh, is it going to eat you? Are you afraid? And you get to show them things. And like somebody you would never probably think had these. I don't know. It's kind of cool that how everything lines up with the hobby. So that's what I like about it, I guess, is in summation, one word, fellowship.
Yep. At the people, again, like you guys saying, hey, you're going to come down to Georgia in June. I love you guys. I love Bob. But there's just something about the Tinley atmosphere. People that I only get to see once every 6 months, usually. Right. We're now in about 1.5 years, 2 years. My main draw would be the people. Because there's certain conversations I don't get to have with people, and there's certain people I literally only talk to at Tinley. So that stuff is thing. So, I agree with you, man. This hobby opens up opportunities, and a lot of it's just from meeting great people you wouldn't have known otherwise. We all have this one interest that brings us together, and we're all from all these different parts of life with different backgrounds, different jobs, right. Different everything. It's unique, and I'm sure other hobbies have this luxury that we do of being surrounded by great people, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I could never not be a part of this, and the people are a big part of it. The animals are the biggest part. Yep. Man, do I love the personalities.
All right. Yep.
But, well, I'm going to go ahead and call that a peak. I don't know if Matt's listening to this. That means we're done, buddy.
Hey.
I know, right? Every good thing comes to an end. I hate to say it, but well, Ben, I mean, I don't know all the little things where you can listen to this, so I really can't sound us out. I could just say that, Matt, again, I appreciate you coming out, man. Very well spoken. Really love what you're working on down there, and I'm sure you got some really great stuff coming up for us in the future.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun and meant a lot that I was invited on, so thank you.
Yeah, well, good. Great to have you, man. I'm sure we're going to do this again someday, and always looking for opportunities to do things at shows together with the podcast. I guarantee we're going to pack a bunch of us in a room sometime and have a great time.
Yep, absolutely.
But, all right.
Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on. And yeah, for sure, next time we are in the same vicinity, we'll definitely say hi and hang out and stuff like that. So it's fun. I appreciate you coming on, and I know it got a little crazy in the middle with all the people hopping in, which was fun. I think it's a good time.
Yeah.
And we all know what toxoplasmosis is now, and we didn't know that before.
Right.
That's the real kicker here to this podcast.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm gonna, just appreciate it, and anybody that's listening, make sure you guys are going over to YouTube and subscribe to us. Share this, tell your friends. You can also listen to it, obviously, on almost all the podcast channels out there. Feel free to comment down below if there's something you want to discuss, and we'll try to get back to you. We really appreciate everyone, and thank you so much. Have a good night.